The East Blue Saga serving as the beginning of Luffy's journey to becoming king of the pirates. The saga ran from 1999 to 2001 in the anime and spans a total of 61 episodes. So let's get into the story. Romance Dawn. The story begins with Gold Roger, the Pirate King, whose final words about a hidden treasure sparked the great age of pirates. Years later, in Fuchsia Village, a boy named Monkey D. Luffy idolizes the red-haired pirates and begs their leader Shanks to let him join. But Shanks refuses because he was too young. After accidentally eating a devil fruit, Luffy gains a rubber body, but lost the ability to swim. When bandits kidnap him and throw him into the sea, Shanks saves Luffy's life from a sea king, sacrificing his arm in the process. Before leaving the village, Shanks entrusts Luffy with his straw hat, inspiring him to build his own crew of pirates and become Pirate King. 10 years later, Luffy defeats the same Sea King and meets Kobe, a timid cabin boy trapped under the cruel pirate Alvida. Luffy's courage inspires Kobe to pursue his dream of joining the Marines, while Luffy defeats Alvida and continues onwards. Luffy reaches Shell's Town and decides to recruit the feared pirate hunter swordsman Roronoa Zoro, who had been unjustly imprisoned by the corrupt Captain Morgan. After retrieving Zoro's swords and defeating Morgan and his crew, Luffy earned Zoro as his first crewmate, while Kobe found the courage to begin his marine journey. Orange Town. Luffy and Zoro's journey begins in typical chaos, lost at sea and starving because neither can navigate. They try to catch food when Luffy is snatched away by a giant bird. While chasing after him, Zoro encounters 3 battered pirates, who explain they were tricked by a clever thief that stole their boat and left them stranded. That same thief, Nami, soon appears in Orange Town, fleeing Buggy the Clown's men after stealing a map of the Grand Line. When Luffy crash lands in the middle of the chase, Nami uses him as a distraction, and after seeing his strength, introduces herself as a pirate thief. Though, she first tries to manipulate Luffy and hands him over to Buggy. She cannot bring herself to actually kill him, and Zoro arrives in time to help them escape. As Buggy's strange devil fruit powers, the Chop Chop fruit allows him to chop up his body and send it flying into different pieces in battle. Him and his crew terrorize the deserted town, when Luffy meets a loyal dog and is moved by the destruction of his pet shop. After defeating some of Buggy's crew, Luffy finally takes down Buggy with the help of Zoro and Nami. In the end, Nami joins them temporarily, and the townspeople are saved as the 3 pirates sail away together, one step closer to the Grand Line. Syrup Village. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami first arrive on the island of rare animals, where they meet Gaimon, a stranded pirate who has spent 20 years trapped inside a treasure chest while guarding what he believes is a valuable stash on top of a rock. After helping him reach the treasure, they discover the chests are empty, but he chooses to stay anyway, finding new purpose in protecting the island's rare animals, who have become his true treasure. Leaving him behind, the trio sail on to Syrup Village in search of his ship. There, they meet Usopp, a loud but good-hearted liar who leads a small band of village kids and dreams of being a great pirate. The Straw Hats quickly learn that Usopp's sick friend Kaya is being cared for by her butler, Clawador, who is secretly the evil pirate Captain Kuro, a notorious pirate plotting to steal her fortune and murder anyone in his way. When Luffy and Usopp overhear the plan, no one believes their warning. Since Usopp is such a damn bold-faced liar and this man just destroyed all his own credibility, I wonder if we're gonna believe Usopp this time. You know, the same guy that runs a band of 1 million pirates at his beck and call? Stupid ass Usopp. Forcing the Straw Hats to stand alone against the coming Black Cat pirates. The battle is chaotic, with traps flying, pirates landing on the wrong beach, and Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Usopp all struggling to hold their own. Usopp eventually proves his bravery, Zoro defeats some of Kuro's crew, and Luffy finally brings down Kuro after seeing how little he values his own crew. In the aftermath, Kaya rewards the Straw Hats with a ship, the Going Merry, and Usopp leaves his old life behind to join them, finally as a real pirate. Baratie. With the Going Merry finally theirs, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Usopp begin settling into life as a real pirate crew, even designing their own Jolly Roger and testing the ship's cannons. Their fun quickly caused trouble when they accidentally fire on 2 bounty hunters, Johnny and Yosaku, who turn out to be old friends of Zoro. After Nami treated Yosaku scurvy, the pair guided the crew to the floating restaurant Baratie, where they said the Straw Hats might find a cook that they desperately need for their journey to the Grand Line. At the Baratier, Luffy accidentally damages the restaurant and is forced to work to pay off his debt, while the crew meets Sanji, a sharp-tongued chef whose kindness is showed when he secretly feeds Gin, a starving pirate from the fearsome Don Krieg's fleet. That single act of mercy sets off a crisis because Gin eventually returns to Krieg, who soon invades the Baratier in search of food and a way to rebuild his shattered pirate armada after losing everything on the Grand Line. In the middle of this chaos, Nami suddenly steals the Going Merry and the crew's treasures, shocking everyone. Yo, honestly, Nami has been a big snake at the beginning of the series, eh? She continues to snake when we get to the next arc, but let's carry on. Before the others could chase her, the battlefield is interrupted by Dracule Mihawk, aka Hawkeye Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman. Zoro challenges him in pursuit of his dream to become the best swordsman on the planet, but is overwhelmingly defeated. Even so, Zoro's resolve impresses Mihawk, and after surviving, Zoro swears to Luffy that he will never lose again. As the battle with Krieg escalates, Sanji's past with Zeph is revealed. The two had once been stranded together, and Zeph had sacrificed everything to keep Sanji alive because they shared the same dream of finding the All Blue, a legendary mythical sea said to be the only place where the four seas, north, south, east, and west, meet, making it a paradise for chefs looking to source ingredients. Re-inspired by his memory of their bond and Zeph's sacrifices, including giving up his foot because bro was a legendary pirate that could literally kick ass, Sanji joins in on the fight and Luffy eventually defeats Krieg. Afterward, Sanji finally accepts an invitation to join Luffy's crew after repeatedly refusing because he hears his crew shitting on him, attacking his food, attacking his personal character, but really, it was all in an attempt to push him to grow. Aw, ain't that sweet? And tearfully leaving the Baratier behind, just as word comes out that Nami is headed for an even more dangerous island, Arlong Park. After Nami left the crew at Baratier, Luffy, Sanji, and Yosaku chase her toward Arlong Park, where Yosaku explains the danger ahead and why he suspects Nami has ties to the dangerous fishman, Arlong. When Nami arrives, it's revealed that she is a part of Arlong's crew, shocking everyone. At the same time, Zoro, Usopp, and Johnny reach the island and see the destruction that Arlong has brought. Usopp learns from Nojiko, Nami's foster sister, that the island was Nami's home, while Zoro witnesses Nami apparently serving Arlong, even beating him and appearing to kill him to maintain her cover. However, the truth slowly comes out. Years ago, when Nami was still just a little girl, Arlong took over Kokoyashi village by forcing everyone to pay for their lives. Arlong's ugly ass decided to tax everyone just to not kill them and put a price on everyone's head, literally. Nami's adoptive mother, Bellamere, decided to try and spare Nami and her foster sister Nojiko. However, ultimately ended up sacrificing her life and getting killed by Arlong. After this, Nami decided to work under him due to her map drawing skills, with the dream of earning 100 million berry to eventually buy back herself and all of the villagers' freedom. Thus, her hatred, greed, and betrayals have all been a part of this desperate plan born from tragedy. But just as Nami is finally near her goal, a corrupt marine steals her savings, with Arlong being the mastermind behind it all. Talk about trust issues. Yo, no wonder Nami was so messed up at the beginning. Broken and furious, Nami tries to stop the villagers from throwing their lives away and rebelling against Arlong, and in a rage, stabs her own tattoo trying to cut it off of her shoulder when she was branded as part of Arlong's gang. Thankfully, Luffy finally steps in and stops her, and Nami asks him for help. Luffy places his straw hat on her head and leads the crew into Arlong Park. While Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp defeat Arlong's officers, Luffy finally faces Arlong himself. After learning how Nami had been forced to draw maps in a room for years, like a prisoner, Luffy destroys the room, the tower, and Arlong with one final blow. With Arlong defeated, Kokoyashi is freed, and Nami joins the Straw Hats for real. The crew sailing away at last with peace restored. Logue Town. After causing such a ruckus, the Straw Hats discover that Luffy has earned his first bounty of 30 million berry. My boy got his own wanted poster. That's the Willa D right there. Y'all finna find out about that later. a moment that thrills him even as Nami warns him that it's only going to bring more trouble. Soon after, they arrive in Logetown, the final stop before the Grand Line, and the place where Gold Roger was born and executed. While the crew shops for supplies, Zoro replaces his broken swords and earns both Sandai Kitetsu and Yubashiri, after proving his luck and courage. At the same time, Luffy visits Roger's execution platform, only to be captured by old enemies Buggy and Alvida, who plan to kill him publicly. Now, plot twist, Alvida, man doesn't even recognize who the hell she is because she got that Ozempic treatment, fucking ate a smooth fruit out here. Now she's slipping and sliding around like Diddy covered in baby oil. Pause. As Zoro and Sanji rush to save him, Luffy smiles calmly in the face of death, until a sudden lightning strike destroys the platform and frees him, electrocuting Buggy. The chain-smoking Marine, Smoker, then tries to pursue the crew, but a mysterious stranger helps Luffy escape from the shadows. Reunited on the Going Merry, the Straw Hats sail toward the Grand Line and declare their dreams together before entering the next stage of their journey. Alabasta. Adapted from Ichiro Oda's manga, the Alabasta saga covers the Straw Hats' arrival in the desert kingdom of Alabasta as they try to help Princess Vivi stop a full-scale civil war. Alabasta ran from 2001 to 2002 in the anime and spans a total of 74 episodes. So, let's get into the story. Reverse Mountain. As the Straw Hats approach the Grand Line, they survive a storm, escape a deadly calm belt and its Sea King, and ride the current up Reverse Mountain. After crashing down the other side, they collided with Laboon, a giant whale blocking their path, and are swallowed into his body. Inside, they meet Crocus and cross paths with the mysterious Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday, whom Luffy quickly defeats. Crocus reveals Laboon had waited over 50 years for a pirate crew that snaked his ass and never came back after promising to never forget their friend. Why would you do this to Laboon? Yo, I'm gonna shed some tears for Laboon. And because of that, he's been continuously raging and bucking his head. Look at all the scars on this guy. Like, dog, what are you doing? You're gonna end your own life. Moved by this, Luffy declares Laboon his new friend and promises to return back to play with him after his own adventure's done, paints his Jolly Roger on the whale, and receives a log post from Crocus, making their way so they can set sail toward Whiskey Peak. Whiskey Peak. As the Straw Hats enter the Grand Line, they reach Whiskey Peak after surviving its wild and unpredictable weather. Because the log pose needs time to reset, they dock there and are surprisingly welcomed like heroes by the townspeople, who throw them a huge feast and get them wasted. While most of the crew relax and fall asleep, Zoro and Nami stay alert, and their suspicion proves to be right when the townspeople are revealed to be bounty hunters from a secret criminal organization called Baroque Works. Zoro single-handedly defeats wave after wave of attackers, including Mr. 8, Mr. 9, Miss Monday, and Miss Wednesday. Soon, however, the truth comes out that Miss Wednesday is actually Princess Vivi of Alabasta, and Mr. 8 is one of her loyal subjects from the kingdom, Igaram, her royal guard, both working undercover to stop Baroque Works from destroying her kingdom. Vivi reveals that the organization's leader, Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the seas, is behind the madness, but no one else knows his identity. After Igaram is seemingly killed protecting Vivi, the Straw Hats choose to take Vivi with them and set sail for Little Garden. Diary of Kobe. Also, Kobe gets recruited into the Marines by Vice Admiral Garp for trying to help stop Morgan from escaping, this ugly-ass dude with the big metal jaw that Luffy defeated in the last saga. So, good for Kobe. Little Garden. With Vivi aboard, the Straw Hats land on Little Garden, a prehistoric island where dinosaurs roam and everything feels enormous. While Luffy and Vivi explore, Nami and Usopp meet Broggy, and later, the crew learns about Broggy and Dory, 2 giants from Elbath who had been dueling for 100 years. Their pride, strength, and sense of honor deeply inspires Usopp, who sees them as the kind of brave warriors that he wants to become. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen with your lion bitch ass, but we'll see, Usopp. However, this newfound peace did not last. Baroque Works agents arrive with orders to kill the giants and the Straw Hats. Mr. 5 secretly rigged Dory's drink to explode, leaving him injured before his duel with Broggy. In the chaos, Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week capture Zoro, Nami, and later Vivi, trapping them in a giant wax candle set meant to turn them into statues, while Luffy is pinned down and manipulated by Miss Golden Week's painting powers. the crew fights back desperately. Usopp eventually snaps Luffy out of his hypnosis and helps create a plan to melt the wax before their friends are sealed forever. Luffy defeats Mr. 3, Usopp outsmarts Mr. 5, Karu helps defeat Miss Golden Week, and Nami and Vivi help to turn the battle around as well. Meanwhile, Sanji accidentally intercepts a call from Mr. Zero, aka Crocodile, giving the crew a small but important advantage by pretending to be one of the agents in Baroque Works and saying that he killed the Straw Hats. In the end, Dory and Bragi recover and repay the Straw Hats by helping them leave Little Garden, destroying the giant island eater in the ocean so the crew could continue their journey towards Alabasta. Drum Island. After leaving Little Garden, the Straw Hats are thrown into another crisis when Nami comes down with a deadly fever, forcing the crew to abandon their route and head for Drum Island in search of a doctor. On the way, they're attacked by the gluttonous pirate Wapol. Yo, look at this man's ugly fucking beak, bro. Like, this man pissed me the hell off, bro. Buddy's out here eating fucking wood with his ugly ass metal jaw. Get this man off my screen. But Luffy sends him flying before the crew reaches the snowy kingless country. There, a knight named Dalton explains that Wapol had once ruled Drum as a cruel tyrant, forcing all the doctors in the island to be under his control so that people would have to depend solely on him. Now, only one doctor remains, the feared but brilliant Dr. Kariha, who lives high atop Drum Castle. With Nami growing worse, Luffy carries both her and the injured Sanji up the freezing mountain after surviving an avalanche, collapsing at last before Kariha and her strange reindeer-looking assistant named Tony Chopper. While Nami recovers, Chopper's tragic past comes to light. Once a normal reindeer, after eating the human fruit, he turns into a half-man, half-reindeer hybrid, resulting in him being rejected by both humans and reindeer as a monster. Yo, this was the saddest arc in the story so far. Honest to God, this arc pulled at my heartstrings. Like, yo, when Tony's crying and all he wants is a friend and a home, like, yo, let Tony live, bro. Chopper's my guy. Chopper eventually gets taken in by the eccentric Dr. Hiruluk, who inspires him to become a doctor as well when Chopper overhears that Hiruluk was dying from a terminal illness. In a desperate attempt to save him, Chopper goes on a quest to find this rare-ass mushroom that he read about in one of Dr. Hiruluk's books that could cure any disease. He goes back through his old reindeer buddies, fights them, almost loses his life, but Chopper gets the mushroom, comes back home, and makes a mushroom soup for Dr. Hiruluk out of deep love and desperation to save him. Unfortunately, Chopper misread the book. The medicine was not a cure-all for any disease, but a poison that would kill anybody. Hiruluk, realizing this, ate the soup anyway, as he wanted to avoid breaking Chopper's heart, and chose to accept that his adoptive son was only trying to save him. He drinks the poison and decides either way he's gonna die, so he might as well go out guns a-blazing. Pulls up on Wapol's castle and, in a desperate attempt to try and save the people of Drum, ends up sacrificing his life and dying in the process, leaving Chopper all alone. After this, Tony was taken in by Dr. Kariha and became her medical assistant, eventually being taught how to become a doctor by her himself. Now, as Wapol returns to take back his kingdom, he attacks Drum Castle and tries to destroy Hiruluk's pirate flag that was left behind, but Luffy protects it with his own body. Chopper finally fights back using his rumble balls to defeat Wapol's fused henchmen, while Luffy chases Wapol down and blasts him away for good. In the aftermath, Luffy convinces Chopper to join the crew. As the Straw Hats depart, Kariha gave her student a final farewell by filling the snowy sky with the pink cherry blossoms, which was Hiruluk's plan to reignite the sparks in the people of Drum Kingdom, sending Chopper off towards Alabasta and a new life at sea. Alabasta. On the way to Alabasta, the Straw Hats, unbeknownst to them, meet Mr. 2 Bon Clay after accidentally hooking him while fishing. His strange but entertaining personality quickly wins everyone over, and he shows off the clone fruit by transforming his face into most of the Straw Hats before leaving. After he leaves, Vivi's horrified when she realizes too late that this cheerful new friend was actually one of Baroque Works' top agents. To protect themselves from his impersonation ability, the crew secretly marks their arms with X's before continuing on. When they finally reach Nanohana, they find out that Crocodile Crocodile is worshipped as a hero by the people, even as he secretly works to destroy the kingdom from within. In Nanohana, Luffy wanders off in search of food and accidentally crashes into a confrontation between Smoker, the chain-smoking marine with the smoke fruit, who can turn his own body into smoke, and everyone's favorite, Portis D. Ace. His carelessness leads the Marines straight to the crew, but Ace steps in and rescues them using his flame fruit powers, revealing himself as Luffy's older brother, and later gives Luffy a card before leaving the desert. Vivi then sent Karu ahead to warn the palace of what's going on. After that, the Straw Hats cross the desert, battling heat, thieves, giant creatures, and exhaustion. They pass through ruined landscapes and eventually reach Yuba, where Vivi reunites with Toto and is reminded of her childhood bond with her friend Koza, now the leader of the rebels. There, Luffy challenges Vivi's desperate plan to stop the rebels directly, arguing that none of it would matter if Crocodile remains free. After a fierce argument, Vivi accepts that they have to go to Rain Base and strike at the real source of the war, Crocodile himself. At the same time, Crocodile gathers Baroque Works' top agents and sets the final phase of his plan in motion. In Rain Base, the Straw Hats run into Smoker again and are lured into Crocodile's casino, Rain Dinners, where Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and even Smoker are trapped in a sea stone cage. Vivi, however, was separated before this and was not captured, and Crocodile openly explains how he intended to collapse Alabasta through deception and spark a civil war between the royals and the rebels. Meanwhile, in Nanohana, Bon Clay disguises himself as King Cobra and falsely confesses to using dance powder, a forbidden substance that causes rain to appear in one location at the expense of depriving other locations of rain, causing droughts, effectively causing the drought throughout the rest of the kingdom and contributing to the suffering that has been going on to the commoners in other parts of Alabasta. Hearing this, the rebels are driven into a frenzy, which pushes Koza to declaring all-out war. Elsewhere, Sanji, acting as Mr. Prince as a cover, outwitted Crocodile with a phone call, worked with Chopper as a decoy, and helped free the trapped group. Luffy then stayed behind to fight Crocodile, but is utterly defeated, stabbed, dehydrated, and left for dead in the desert before secretly being saved by Miss All Sunday, Crocodile's second in command. As the rebellion explodes in Alaburna, the crew split up to stop Baroque Works officers and uncover the hidden bomb meant to ensure total destruction. Usopp and Chopper then defeat Mr. 4 and Miss Merry Christmas. Sanji beats Mr. 2, Nami overcomes Miss Doublefinger, and Zoro defeats Mr. 1. Vivi then races through the city trying to stop the fighting, only to learn that the cannon in the clock tower is actually a timed bomb. Her honorable knight, Pell, carries it high, transforms using his devil fruit powers, and carries it into the sky, seemingly sacrificing himself to save the capital. But even then, the armies keep fighting because no one can hear Vivi's cries to stop. Elsewhere, in the royal tomb, Miss All Sunday leads the real Nefertari Cobra, Vivi's dad and the king of Alabasta, to the Poneglyph, an ancient artifact with text said to know the location of an ultimate apocalyptic level weapon. Crocodile arrives seeking its secret and then turns on both Miss All Sunday and Cobra when Miss All Sunday refuses to tell him what the Poneglyph really says. Luffy then returns for one final battle, now understanding that Crocodile's sand body. Oh yeah, which I forgot to mention. The reason this man is so dangerous in the desert is because he has the sand fruit. So Buddy's literally just turning into sand and making it so you can't even hit him. Buddy's like Gaara on steroids. Luffy figures out though that Crocodile's body can be struck when it's hardened by liquid, even blood. Though poisoned by Crocodile's hook, Luffy refuses to fall, enduring everything thrown at him, and manages to harden Crocodile's body using his own blood. With the Gomu Gomu no Storm, a barrage of Gum Gum pistols, smashing Crocodile up through the bedrock and into the heart of Alubarna. With Crocodile defeated, rain finally falls on Alabasta, and the war soon comes to an end. In the aftermath, Vivi chooses to stay behind and help rebuild her country. The Straw Hats, unable to publicly acknowledge her as the Marines come approaching in, raise their marked arms in a silent farewell to Vivi. But just as they leave, Miss All Sunday reveals herself on board as Nico Robin and asks to join the crew. Luffy accepts and the crew sails on from Alabasta, carrying both the pain of goodbye and the surprise of a new beginning. Adapted from Ichiro Oda's manga, the Sky Island Saga covers the Straw Hats' journey from Jaya to the Sky Island of Skypiea, where they become caught in a conflict involving gods, the Shandorians, and the lost city of gold, Shandora. In the anime, the Sky Island Saga ran from 2002 to 2004 in Japan and spans a total of 71 episodes. So, let's get into the story. Jaya. With Vivi now safe in Alabasta and Nico Robin newly aboard, the Straw Hats' next adventure begins when a giant ship suddenly falls from the sky. At the same time, their log posts started pointing upward, and Robin explained that it had locked onto a sky island. Curious, the crew explored the sunken wreck of the St. Brice, a ship that had disappeared over 200 years earlier, and found clues pointing to a legendary place called Skypiea. Their search for answers was interrupted by Mashira and his salvage crew. But after a chaotic encounter involving his giant monkey-looking ass, a giant sea turtle, and terrifying, huge monstrous shadows with wings in the sky, Robin eventually secured an eternal pose to Jaya so they could continue investigating. On Jaya, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami enter Mocktown, where they cross paths with many strange pirates, including Bellamy, and an unknown man who will actually be very important later to the story. I promise you, look at this man's hair, look at this man's gap tooth, don't underestimate him. Later, when Nami asks about Sky Island, Bellamy and the town mocks the very idea, laughing at their dreams of going to a city of gold, and laughing at the idea of Gold Roger's hidden treasure, the One Piece, as well. Even when Bellamy attacked them, Luffy and Zoro refused to fight back. Outside, this same stranger with his bucky teeth and his pot belly sitting on the ground praises their decision and reminds Luffy that people's dreams never truly end. The Straw Hats then seek out Mont Blanc Cricket, a descendant of the disgraced explorer Noland, who had been executed as a liar after claiming he found a city of gold. Cricket was conflicted if Noland told the truth and spent his life diving looking for proof. He also explained that Skypiea could only be reached through the knock-up stream, and with help from Mashira, Shoujo, and Saruyama Alliance, the crew prepared the Going Merry and hunted down a south bird to guide them. When Bellamy later beats Cricket and steals his gold, Luffy returns to Mocktown enraged. And this is where Bellamy fucked up. One of his crew members found a wanted poster with Luffy's face on it, showing that Luffy's bounty was 100 million berry. But the whole crew started laughing at this dude, saying that this poster must have been fake and that Luffy just looks like a weakling. But they should have listened to their man, because Luffy pulls back up and knocks Bellamy out in a single punch, shocking everyone. After returning the gold, the Straw Hats sailed up the knock-up stream, nearly escaping a confrontation with the Blackbeard pirates, led by the mysterious man they met earlier. Yeah, he gonna be a problem, let's wait on it. And were blasted high into the sky towards Skypiea. Skypiea. After riding the knock-up stream into the sky, the Straw Hats found themselves in the White Sea, a vast ocean of clouds where even Devil Fruit users could sink. Before they could adjust, they were attacked by a masked rider, but an old man named the Sky Knight, aka Gonfall, arrived on his bird Pierre and drove the attacker off. He warned them that the thin air made fighting harder and gave them a whistle to call him if they get into trouble again. Soon after, the crew reached Heaven's Gate, where they were told to pay a massive entrance fee. Not understanding the local currency, they went through anyway, unknowingly becoming criminals in Skypiea. They arrive on Angel Island and are welcomed by Conus and her father, who introduced them to the Skypiean life and explained dials, shell-like tools that store energy, used to power technology as well as in battle. While the others learn about the island, Nami takes a waiver for a ride and wanders close to the Upper Yard, a forbidden sacred land ruled by their god Eneru and his priests. There, she sees just how terrifying Eneru is when he casually strikes down a treasure hunter with a lightning bolt from the sky without even showing his face. Meanwhile, back on the beach, the White Berets informed the Straw Hats that entering without paying had made them lawbreakers, and when the fee and punishments keep escalating, Luffy wiles out, pushing them into even greater danger. Later on, Conus tearfully admits that she had betrayed them under Eneru's orders, since refusing to follow his laws means death. Eneru immediately tries to kill her from afar, but Gonfall returns, saves her, and takes her and her father to safety. The crew is then taken to the upper yard, where they split up. Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp enter one of Eneru's priestly trials, the Ordeal of Balls, and fought Satori, who could predict their attacks using mantra. It's some telekinetic-like power that, I don't know, it's kind of like a sixth sense in a way, and you can hear shit. It's pretty cool. After a long struggle, they managed to defeat it. Elsewhere, Chopper stayed behind to guard the Going Merry, but gets attacked by another priest named Shura. He then calls Gonfall for help, yet even with the Sky Knight's aid, the ship still gets badly damaged. And Gonfall literally gets stabbed through his chest by Shura, which has Tony tweaking the hell out because now Chopper really thinks that all is lost. Meanwhile, Robin, Zoro, and Nami explore the forest and uncover their biggest revelation yet. Upper Yard was actually part of Jaya, which got knocked into the sky by the knock-up stream. That meant that the City of Gold from Mont Blanc Nolan's story had never sunken into the sea at all. It had been blasted into the sky centuries earlier, and bro wasn't crazy. This man got executed for no reason. I'd be pissed the hell off if I was him. At the same time, the Shandorians, descendants of the original people of this land, were preparing to reclaim Upper Yard from Eneru and Skypiea, seeing both of them as their enemies. Their leader, Wiper, launches an assault once he learns that Gonfall and some of the priests are starting to take each other out. That night, the Straw Hats reunited, pooled their discoveries, and realized that they were standing above the lost City of Gold itself, Shandora. Gonfall then explains their deeper history. In the White Sea, soil, called Verth, was a priceless treasure, and when Jaya's land was blasted into the sky, Skypiea treated it as holy land. That created the generations-long war with the Shandorians, who had always called it home. Also, don't let me forget to mention that Gonfall actually used to be God. So this man was God, and then 6 years ago, Eneru just pulls up with his squad, takes over, and basically declares himself God now and is ruling over everybody with an iron fist. Or a lightning fist. Either way, he be fist demands. Wait. Okay, that didn't come out right, but you know what I mean. After Gonfall had got stabbed in the chest, luckily things worked out for him. They were able to fight Shura off, and when the crew got back, they got together. Tony was able to try and use his medical skills to bandage up Gonfall and treat his wounds and stuff. So everyone's still alive, they still rocking. During that night, Usopp then sees a strange figure secretly repairing the Going Merry, but has no idea who the hell it was. The next day, Eneru then begins his survival game, declaring that only 5 people would remain standing by the end. Upper Yard then becomes total chaos. Wiper defeats Shura with a rejectile, a devastating weapon that also damages the user. Zoro defeats Braum, and later Priest Ohm. Chopper beats Gedatsu, and Robin defeats Yama while exploring the ruins of Shandora, interested in finding some lost history. Once again, very important. Shout out to Oda. This man was always on his shit. Luffy, meanwhile, got swallowed by a giant python and spent a lot of the battle wandering through its stomach, thinking he was trapped in a freaking cave. Yo, Luffy. It's okay. He's Joy Boy. It's okay. Robin eventually found the ancient ruins and discovered a poneglyph, along with clues pointing to the missing golden bell. Eneru then moves through the battlefield effortlessly, striking down fighters from both sides with overwhelming lightning powers, thanks to the fact that he's eaten the Rumble fruit. So this man's actually just a devil fruit user. He ain't no god. Even Wiper's desperate attack using Sea Stone and a rejectile only stopped Eneru briefly before he restarted his own heart with electricity. Eneru then reveals his true plans. He intended to destroy Skypiea completely and leave for the Fairy Verth, a supposedly endless land fit only for a god. His flying ark, the Maxim, was built from the gold of Shandora and powered by his lightning. With everyone else beaten down, Nami pretends to cooperate with him while waiting for a chance to escape. Then Luffy finally reaches Eneru. The fight completely changes. Eneru's stunned to discover that his lightning has no effect on Luffy, because Luffy is made of rubber. Shout out to him eating the gum fruit. For the first time, Eneru had met a natural enemy who could actually hit him. Their battle rages across the Maxim as Eneru creates giant storm clouds and prepares a final attack to wipe out all the Sky Islands. Even after Eneru trapped a huge ball of gold onto Luffy's arm and knocked him away, Luffy refused to quit. Sanji sabotaged the arc from within, Usopp and Nami escape, and Konis warns the people below that Eneru was going to destroy everything. Luffy then climbed the giant beanstalk toward the Golden Bell, determined not only to stop Eneru, but to ring the bell so Mont Blanc Cricket on Jaya would know the City of Gold really existed in the sky. At the climax, Eneru unleashes a gigantic cloud to erase Skypiea. As the people pray, Luffy uses the golden ball on his arm to draw in the lightning, breaks through Eneru's attack, and sends him crashing into the Golden Bell. The bell rang across Skypiea and all the way down to Jaya, where Cricket heard it and saw Luffy's shadow in the sky. In that moment, Nolan's story was vindicated, Cricket's faith was rewarded, and the war between the Shandorians and the Skypieans finally came to an end. After all this, Eneru leaves for the moon. Robin then uncovers more history from the Poneglyph, and the Straw Hats depart the White Sea with gold, new answers, and another impossible dream made real. Water 7 Saga. After the Straw Hats made it through the Sky Island Saga and returned to the Blue Sea, this was a storyline that showed fans just how intense, dramatic, and character-driven One Piece could really get. This was the saga that tested the crew from within, introduced one of the most dangerous government threats they had faced so far, and proved that One Piece could balance heartbreak, betrayal, and mystery all at once. Water 7 Saga ran from 2004 to 2007 in Japan and spans a total of 116 episodes. So, let's get into the story. Long Ring Longland. Back in Mocktown, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, named Don Quixote do Flamengo, uses his devil fruit powers to force Bellamy and Sarkis to attack each other, punishing them for disgracing his name through their defeat at the hands of Luffy and the Straw Hats. After casting them out of his crew, he declares that the new age of piracy has begun, where only the truly strong will survive. Elsewhere, after returning from the sky, the Straw Hats landed on the bizarre island of Long Ring Longland, where everything was stretched and strange. While exploring, Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper met Tonjit, an old nomad who had spent 10 years stranded atop tall bamboo stilts waiting to reunite with his horse Shelly. Their peaceful moment was interrupted when Foxy, the Silver Fox, shot Shelly and challenged Luffy to a Davy backfight, a pirate contest where crews could steal each other's members. Angry and tricked into accepting, Luffy put his crew on the line against Foxy's cheating pirates. In the first event, Foxy's tricks helped his side win, and Chopper was taken, leaving him heartbroken until Zoro harshly reminded him to stay strong while they fought to win him back. Zoro and Sanji then overcame both the groggy monsters and the biased referee to reclaim Chopper. The final event was a captain's duel between Luffy and Foxy aboard Foxy's trap-filled ship. Even with Foxy's tricks, beams, and gadgets, Luffy turned the fight around and beat him. But the real danger came afterward, when the crew met Admiral Aokiji. Though calm at first, he reveals Robin's past made the crew a threat. He easily froze Robin and then defeated Luffy in a one-on-one fight, sparing them only because Luffy's earlier victory over Crocodile. Shaken by how overwhelming the Marines truly were, the Straw Hats sailed on with a grim new understanding of the dangers ahead. Water 7. After recovering from their clash with Aokiji, the Straw Hats followed a giant frog across the sea and stumbled onto the tracks of the sea train, nearly getting run over before arriving at Water 7, the famous city of shipwrights. There, they met Kokoro, Chimney, and Gombe, learn about the Puffing Tom, and head into the canal-filled city hoping to repair the Going Merry. Luffy, Nami, and Usopp sell the Skypiea gold for 300 million berry and seek out Galilea's president, Iceberg, while Robin and Chopper explore the city. But Robin is suddenly shaken when a masked man whispers CP9 to her, and soon after, she vanished. Things quickly got worse. The Frankie family stole 200 million berry from Usopp and beat him badly, while shipwright Kaku inspected the Going Merry and delivered devastating news. The ship's keel was broken, and it could no longer be properly repaired. Luffy made the painful decision to replace the Merry, but when Usopp heard, he took it as a betrayal of a crewmate he loved. The crew stormed Frankie House to avenge him, but Frankie had already left with most of the money. Back at the ship, the argument between Luffy and Usopp exploded, ending with Usopp leaving the crew and challenging Luffy to a duel for ownership of the Merry. Though Usopp fought cleverly and pushed Luffy harder than expected, Luffy won and still left the Merry to him. The next morning, Water 7 was thrown into chaos when Iceberg was shot and he named Robin as one of the attackers. Franky then attacked Luffy, revealing himself to be a cyborg, but the fight was interrupted when Gali La turned on the Straw Hats, believing they were behind the assassination attempt. As the city hunted them, Sanji and Chopper found Robin, who tearfully said she had to leave because staying with the crew would destroy them. That night, the truth came out. The attackers were CP9, undercover government agents who had framed the Straw Hats and infiltrated Gali La for years to obtain the blueprints to the ancient weapon Pluton, which was actually the same weapon that Crocodile had been looking for in the Alabasta saga earlier, which was the whole reason he was trying to take over and recruited Robin to help him read the poneglyphs. Their true identities were Rob Lucci, Kaku, Khalifa, and Bluno, and they were acting under orders to seize Franky, who was secretly Tom's other apprentice, Cutty Flam. Franky's past then came to light. As a reckless young shipbuilder, he had been raised by Tom alongside Iceberg. Tom, who built Gold D. Rogers' ship, was arrested by the government, but earned a delay in his sentence by building the sea train that saved Water 7. Years later, CP5 chief Spandam framed Tom using Franky's own battleships. Tom was executed, Franky was run over trying to stop the train, and he rebuilt himself as a cyborg. Iceberg later entrusted Franky with the Pluton blueprints. In the present, CP9 captured both Franky and Usopp, while Robin surrendered to protect the Straw Hats from a Buster Call. As Aqua Laguna swallowed Water 7, Sanji snuck aboard the sea train carrying Robin and Franky to Enies Lobby. Nami learned Robin's true reason for leaving, rescued Luffy and Zoro from the ridiculous places they were stuck, and joined forces with Gali La and the Franky family. With Kokoro at the controls, the Straw Hats launched the prototype sea train Rocket Man straight into the storm, forming an unlikely alliance and setting off to save Robin and Franky. Enies Lobby. The assault on Enies Lobby began the moment the Straw Hats, joined by the Franky family and Gali La shipwrights, crashed onto the government island to rescue Robin and Franky before they could be taken through the gates of justice. While the others fought through masses of marines, giant guards, and the island's defenses, Luffy charged ahead and reached the courthouse roof, where he defeated Bluno by unveiling Gear 2, a new technique that massively boosted his speed and power. Even then, Robin insisted she did not want to be saved and would rather die. When the crew finally stood before Robin and CP9 together, Robin's past and fears were laid bare. After a lifetime of betrayal, she believed the Straw Hats would eventually see her as a burden too. Luffy answered in the clearest way possible. After hearing that taking Robin back meant opposing the world government, he ordered Usopp, aka Soga King, which is his alter ego that he's been parading around in this arc, to burn down the government flag. With that single shot, the Straw Hats declared war on the world itself. Faced with that proof of loyalty, Robin finally broke down and admitted what she truly wanted. She wanted to live, and she wanted to go out to sea with them. The fight then turned into a race. Franky burned the Pluton blueprints in front of CP9 so the government could never use them, and the Straw Hats stormed the Tower of Justice. CP9 forced them into a key hunt by claiming only one of 5 keys could unlock Robin's Sea Stone cuffs, which split the crew into separate battles. Luffy ran ahead to stop Lucci and Spandam, while the others each faced their own enemies inside the tower. Zoro battled Kaku, whose giraffe powers became more dangerous as the fight went on, while Sanji fought Jabra and created Diable Jambe to burn through his Tekai defense. Nami overcame Khalifa's bubble powers with the clever use of the Climatact, and Franky defeated Fukuro after refueling himself with cola. Chopper pushed to his limits against Kumadori, took 3 rumble balls and transformed into a terrifying monster point before Franky stopped him by blasting him into the sea. Meanwhile, Luffy caught up with Lucci just as Spandam accidentally triggered the Buster Call, summoning a fleet to destroy Enies Lobby. As the island fell into chaos, Franky reached Robin and, with the help from Soga King's impossible sniping, unlocked her handcuffs. Robin was finally free, and she immediately turned her Devil Fruit powers on Spandam. But escape was still nearly impossible. The fleet bombarded the island, the bridge collapsed, and the crew was trapped while Luffy continued a brutal final fight against Lucci. Even after taking devastating blows and nearly collapsing, Luffy rose again when Usopp dropped the Soga King act and screamed at him to keep fighting. Refusing to lose after everything they had risked, Luffy unleashed one final all-out attack and defeated Lucci for good. Just when it seemed the Straw Hats had no way out, they heard a familiar voice. The Going Merry appeared through the chaos and saved them one last time. With Sanji's earlier sabotage restoring the currents at the Gates of Justice, Nami steered them through the crossfire while Frankie launched the ship clear with coup de vent. They escaped Enies Lobby, but the Merry had reached her limit. With her hull finally split apart, the crew realized the miracle was over. After understanding that the ship had truly carried them one final time out of love, they gave Mary a Viking funeral. As the ship burned, the crew heard her spirit thank them for caring for her, turning their victory into one of the most painful goodbyes of their journey so far. Post Enies Lobby. 2 days after escaping Enies Lobby, the Straw Hats rested in Water 7 while the city recovered from Aqua Laguna. Galley Law repaired the damage, the Frankie family rebuilt their home, and Frankie revealed that he had used the stolen 200 million berry to buy rare atom wood to build the crew a new ship. Before long, Vice Admiral Garp suddenly appeared, smashing through their wall, and shocked everyone by revealing that he was Luffy's grandfather. Yo, Luffy actually just connected to so many damn people in this series. Plot armor after plot armor. During his visit, Garp also explained that Shanks was one of the 4 emperors, aka the most powerful pirate captains in all of the One Piece world, known as the Yonko. And an even bigger secret, Luffy's father is Monkey D. Dragon, the famous revolutionary, one and the same as the mysterious man with the red dragon tattoo on his face that helped free Luffy when he was about to be executed by Buggy back in the East Blue Saga. Kobe and Helmeppo were with him as well, and after a brief reunion, they parted ways with promises to meet again in the New World. As the crew waited for their new ship, they learned their updated bounties and were introduced to the Thousand Sunny, Frankie's dream ship. Though Frankie wanted to stay behind, the Straw Hats and Frankie family forced the issue until he finally accepted Luffy's invitation and joined the crew. At the same time, Usopp struggled with his pride and rehearsed how to return. The crew, especially Zoro, made clear he could not simply walk back without admitting any fault. When the Sunny finally set sail, and Garp began attacking from behind, Usopp broke down, apologized sincerely, and begged to return. Luffy immediately pulled him aboard, restoring the crew at last. As they escaped Water 7 on the Thousand Sunny's maiden voyage, news of the Straw Hats spread across the world, while elsewhere, Ace confronted Blackbeard, setting the stage for an even greater conflict ahead. Thriller Bark Saga. After the Straw Hats escaped Enies Lobby and set sail on the Thousand Sunny, this was a storyline that showed fans just how weird, gothic, and unpredictable One Piece could really get. This was the saga that dropped the crew into a haunted ghost ship adventure, introduced one of the strangest warlords they had faced so far, and proved that One Piece could mix horror, comedy, and mystery all in one. In the anime, the Thriller Bark Saga ran from 2007 to 2009 in Japan and spans a total of 58 episodes. So, let's get into the story. Thriller Bark. A few days after leaving Water 7, the Straw Hats settled into life aboard the Thousand Sunny, enjoying its new features until Zoro spotted a drifting barrel at sea. When they opened it, a strange red flare shot into the sky, and while trying to avoid an incoming storm, Frankie unveiled the Sunny's paddle wheel system and guided them into the Froggy Florian Triangle. There, eerie singing led them to a ghost ship carrying a living skeleton named Brook. Brook immediately made an absurd first impression. From asking Nami to see her panties to casually answering Luffy's questions about whether skeletons can poop, Luffy, delighted, instantly asked him to join the crew, and Brook surprisingly accepted. But the joke gave way to tragedy when Brook explained that his shadow had been stolen, meaning sunlight would destroy him if he left the fog. Before he could explain more, Thriller Bark trapped the Sunny, and Brook fled across the water, warning them to escape. Naturally, Luffy wanted to explore. While Robin and Frankie backed him, the rest of the crew was less thrilled about being dragged into a haunted island surrounded by giant walls. Using the Mini Mary 2, Nami, Usopp, and Chopper reached shore first and quickly found themselves lost in a waterless moat, chased by a stitched up Cerberus, lured by the mysterious Hildun, and dumped in a graveyard filled with attacking zombies. What the hell is this place? Their escape led them to the mansion of Dr. Hogback, a famous doctor Chopper idolized. Though Nami quickly suspected something was wrong cause bro is freaking creepy. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew brought the Sunny ashore where they were attacked by an invisible assailant and forced to march through forests full of bizarre creatures. As they searched for their missing friends, they met an old man with no shadow who revealed that Gecko Moria, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, was the thief behind all of this. At the mansion, Nami, Usopp, and Chopper also discovered that Hogback's maid, Sindri, was actually a dead actress revived as a zombie, and that a zombie samurai named Ryuma acted exactly like Brook, right down to asking for the panties. Somebody stop this man. As midnight struck, the island's true horrors came fully into view. Absalom, an invisible man with a stitched lion face, prepared the zombie generals, while Persona and Moria awakened inside Thriller Bark's tower. The crew learned that Thriller Bark was not just an island, but the world's largest pirate ship. As the Straw Hats pushed deeper inside, the group was split apart repeatedly. Sanji and Zoro went missing, Nami was targeted by Absalom's future bride, and Luffy, Frankie, and Robin fought through powerful zombies who seemed to use the techniques and personalities of real people. Brook soon reappeared and finally explained the truth. Moria's Shadow fruit allowed him to steal shadows from living people and place them into corpses, creating obedient zombies that inherited the original owner's combat style. Hogback repaired the bodies, Moria supplied the shadows, and the result was an army of undead soldiers. Brook also revealed their weakness. Salt purified the zombies and released the shadows. That knowledge came too late to stop Moria from capturing Luffy. Using Persona's ghost to waken him, Moria ripped Luffy's shadow from his body and sent the unconscious captain back to the Sunny. He then inserted Luffy's shadow into the legendary giant corpse Oars, creating a monster with Luffy's personality, rubber abilities, and Moria's control. Around the same time, Frankie revealed a heartbreaking truth about Brook. He had belonged to the Rumbar Pirates, the very crew that had promised Laboon 50 years earlier they would return. The moment Luffy heard that, saving Brook became personal. The Straw Hats regrouped, revived Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro with a ridiculous lie about meat and a beautiful swordswoman, and launched a desperate counterattack before dawn, because once the sun rose, anyone whose shadow had been stolen would die. The battles then splintered into several personal showdowns. Usopp, uniquely immune to Persona's negative ghosts because he was already negative by nature, tracked down which is just hilarious, tracked down her real body and defeated her with one of his most ridiculous wins yet. Sanji stormed Absalom's forced wedding ceremony, furious over Nami's kidnapping, and beat him down while ranting that Absalom had stolen the invisibility fruit Sanji once dreamed of using for deeply questionable reasons. Yo! Zoro then took over Brook's duel with Ryuma, and after a fierce sword fight, defeated him and claimed the Black Blade Shusui. Once Ryuma fell, Brook's shadow finally returned to him. At the same time, Chopper's admiration for Hogback completely shattered when he saw how far the Doctor had fallen. With Robin's help, he exposed Hogback as a man who cared only about bodies, not lives, and even Sindri began resisting his commands. All of that led back to the central nightmare, Oars. The Straw Hats reunited in the courtyard and took him on together, but Oars was monstrously strong and Moria made things even worse by controlling him from inside his stomach. Even after combo attacks, salt strategies, and teamwork that finally started to break Oars down, the monster kept rising. Then Luffy returned after being filled with 100 shadows by the rolling pirates, transforming into Nightmare Luffy. In that state, he completely overwhelmed Oars and Moria for a time, smashing them through the island. But after the borrowed shadows left him, the fight still was not over. With sunrise approaching, the crew executed one final coordinated attack. They immobilized Oars, exposed his weakness, and launched Luffy skyward so he could crush the giant with a Gear 3 giant bazooka, causing Oars to finally fall. Moria himself still remained. Refusing to lose, he absorbed 1,000 shadows into his own body and transformed into a bloated nightmare called Shadows Asgard. The shadows inside him were too many to control, but he still rampaged through the ruins trying to kill the Straw Hats. Luffy fought through exhaustion and beat him away, forcing Moria to release the stolen shadows just before dawn. The people of Thriller Bark were saved, and the shadows flew back to their owners in time. But the danger was not over. Bartholomew Kuma, another warlord, arrived under world government orders to eliminate everyone who had witnessed Moria's defeat. He casually crushed the exhausted survivors and offered to spare them only if they surrendered Luffy. Every single person refused. Zoro, realizing the crew had no chance in their condition, secretly offered his own life in place of Luffy's. Even Sanji tried to take that burden instead, but Zoro knocked him out and stood alone. Kuma then extracted all of Luffy's accumulated pain and exhaustion into a massive paw-shaped sphere and forced Zoro to take it all. When the others woke, Luffy was fine, but Zoro was standing bloodied amid the ruins. When Sanji asked what happened, Zoro simply answered, nothing. By the next day, the survivors celebrated. Brook played Bink's Sake, an iconic pirate song, and after learning from Luffy that Laboon was still waiting at Reverse Mountain, he broke down in tears. He remembered the Rumbar pirates' promise to Laboon, their slow deaths from disease and poison weapons, and the final song they recorded before Brook himself died and later revived through his devil fruit, the Revive fruit, which allowed his soul to return to his body after his death. Now, with his shadow restored and Laboon still waiting, Brook finally had a reason to move forward again. He officially joined the Straw Hats, pledged his life to Luffy, and sailed away from Thriller Bark with the crew at last. The Summit War Saga. Adapted from Ichiro Oda's manga, the Summit War Saga covers Luffy's journey in Sabaody, into Amazon Lily, to Impel Down, and finally to Marine Ford, where he fights through impossible odds to save his brother, Ace. It is one of the most important sagas in the entire series, revealing major truths about Ace, Luffy's family, the balance of power in the world, and the terrifying scale of what happens when the old era begins to fall apart. In the anime, the Summit War Saga ran from 2009 to 2011 in Japan and spans a total of 129 episodes. So let's get into the story. Sabaody Archipelago. After leaving Thriller Bark, the Straw Hats sailed toward the spot their log pose had been guiding them since Water 7, and finally reached the halfway point of the Grand Line, only to find the Red Line blocking their path to Fishman Island and the New World. Since the pose pointed downward, Luffy, Robin, and Brook searched underwater and the sharks submerged, but instead of finding the island, they were chased back up by a giant sea king. When Luffy punched it, the creature spat out a mermaid named Kami and her talking starfish friend. Kami explained that her friend, Hachan, had been captured by kidnappers planning to sell him, and the Straw Hats agreed to help. That led them into a clash with the Flying Fish Riders and their masked leader, Duval, who blamed Sanji for ruining his life because his real face looked exactly like Sanji's awful wanted poster. After a chaotic battle at sea, Sanji beat Duval badly enough to accidentally make him handsome, ending the grudge and turning Duval into an ally. Yo, this show is hilarious. Honestly, people sleep on One Piece. Well, okay, nobody sleeps on One Piece, but all of the One Piece haters out there, you need to tap in for real. The crew then shared takoyaki with Hachan and learned they would need their ship coated at Sabaody Archipelago in order to descend to Fishman Island. At Sabaody, the crew discovered a beautiful but cruel island ruled in practice by fear, slavery, and the world nobles. Hachan warned them never to oppose a noble, because doing so would bring down an admiral. They soon saw why when they witnessed Saint Charlos casually abuse and shoot people. Not long after, Kami is kidnapped. After she's kidnapped and taken to the human auction house, the situation turns much darker. The Straw Hats rush to Grove 1, hoping to save her without causing a scene, because they know attacking a world noble would bring disaster down on all of them. Inside, Kami is treated like merchandise, locked in a fishbowl with an explosive collar around her neck, while the auctioneer Disco hypes her up as the main attraction. Nami prepares to buy her freedom, but St. Charlos immediately crushes that hope by placing a massive bid and claiming her for himself. Then Luffy suddenly crashes into the auction house, with Zoro arriving too, and the tension explodes. When Hachan tries to stop Luffy, his identity as a fishman is exposed, and the crowd reacts with instant fear and disgust. Charlos then shoots him right in front of everyone. Even while wounded, he begs Luffy not to strike back, knowing exactly what will happen if he attacks a world noble. But after watching his friend get shot and humiliated, Luffy finally snaps and delivers the punch that shocks the entire island. That single punch throws the auction house into total chaos. Guards swarm in, nobles panic, and the audience runs for their lives. The Straw Hats stop pretending they can escape quietly and move to save Kami by force. In the middle of the madness, Silver's Rayleigh suddenly appears, revealing himself as the mysterious captive from earlier. With overwhelming calm, he knocks out the guards and removes Kami's explosive collar so easily that it stuns everyone watching. Anyone that's further ahead, you know exactly what was going on, but I'm not trying to spoil it for everybody just yet. Shout out to the greatest writer in anime. Outside, the consequences of Luffy's actions spread instantly across Sabaody. Sengoku is informed, the Marines mobilize, and Admiral Kizaru sets out to handle the incident himself. At the same time, Doflamingo is contacted, but he shows no concern for the collapsing slave trade operation and leaves the mess behind, while the larger threat of Ace's soon-to-be execution is announced. As Ace is the 2nd Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, they are essentially declaring war with Whitebeard. Meanwhile, once the Marines surround the building, escape turns into open war, as Luffy is aided by the Supernovas, Kid, and Trafalgar Law, members of the worst generation, aka the Super Rookies, 11 rookie pirates with bounties exceeding 100 million berries, who all arrived at Sabaody Archipelago around the same time, posing the greatest threat to the balance of the world order in One Piece. Kid, Law, and Luffy briefly fight on the same side, and the 3 captains tear through the Marines in a display that proves why they are the most dangerous rookies on the island. Afterward, the Straw Hats regroup with Rayleigh, who reveals the truth about Roger. Rayleigh was Roger's first mate, the king of the pirates' right hand. Roger conquered the Grand Line while terminally ill, however, and disbanded his crew, then turned himself in, using his death to launch the Great Age of Pirates. Rayleigh then agrees to coat the Sunny, and for a moment, it feels like the crew may finally have a path forward. But things become a complete nightmare. Marine Admiral Kizaru arrives and begins crushing pirates with terrifying ease. Around the island, the Supernovas are pushed to their limits, while the Straw Hats discover that the Kuma they are fighting is actually a pacifista, one of several nearly unstoppable cyborg weapons. Even after barely defeating one, they are in no condition to keep fighting. Then, Sentomaru arrives with another pacifista, Kizaru personally targets them, and Rayleigh has to step in just to help keep Zoro alive. Finally, the real Kuma appears, and the arc turns tragic. One by one, the Straw Hats are made to disappear. Zoro, Brook, Usopp, Sanji, Frankie, Nami, Robin, and Chopper, until Luffy is left alone, helplessly watching his crew vanish in front of him, until eventually he is blasted away himself, and what began as a rescue mission ends as the Straw Hats' most devastating defeat yet. Amazon Lily. After Luffy is sent flying by Kuma and lands on a strange island after days in the air, injured and alone, he tries to recover, hunts food, and accidentally covers himself in poisonous mushrooms. He is found unconscious by Marguerite, Sweet Pea, and Aphilandra, who bring him back to their village and remove the mushrooms, only to discover in shock that he is a man. The island that they're on is called Amazon Lily, homeland of the Kuja, a nation of female warriors where men are forbidden. Luffy is locked up, but his stretching powers and strange behavior leave the women fascinated as much as frightened. When they decide he must be killed, he escapes into the jungle with Marguerite, who returns the life card he received from Silver's Rayleigh, which would help him find him later, and explains the island's isolation in the Calm Belt, along with the strength of their ruler, Boa Hancock. Luffy tries to build a raft and leave, fails instantly, and then learns the Kuja can use hockey through their arrows, a mysterious power that Luffy has claimed to never heard of before. But for all of you dedicated fans out there, you know that hockey has been shown in this anime time and time again before we even got to this point. If you're confused or don't believe me, look it up. This video is not a hockey explanation, but you're gonna find out a little bit sooner. Elsewhere, at sea, Hancock refuses the government's summons despite Ace's coming execution, turns Marines to stone using her devil fruit powers, and returns home to a hero's welcome. Back on the island, the Kuja speak of the Gorgon curse, said to rest on Hancock and her sister's backs. Luffy accidentally crashes into Hancock's bath, sees the mark on her back, and is captured. Set for execution and thrown into an arena, Hancock punishes Marguerite and her friends by turning them to stone, then orders Luffy's execution. He defeats and battles Hancock's sisters, Marigold and Sandersonia, and during the fight, he unleashes a powerful wave, unbeknownst to him, of Conqueror's Haki, and more importantly, protects Sandersonia's exposed back from the crowd. That selfless act changes Hancock's view of him. Hancock finally reveals the truth. She and her sisters were once slaves of the Celestial Dragons, and the so-called Cursed is really a slave brand. Luffy says he hates not her, but the world nobles. When he learns Ace is about to be executed, he gives up reuniting with his crew for now and chooses to save his brother instead. Hancock, now in love with him, agrees to help him reach Impel Down, while elsewhere, the other Straw Hats are scattered across strange islands of their own. Impel Down. With Ace locked away in level 6 of Impel Down and only hours remaining before his execution, Luffy infiltrated the underwater prison by hiding beneath Boa Hancock's robe as she entered under her warlord privileges. Once inside, Hancock secretly helped him slip away during her inspection, allowing him to begin a desperate solo mission to find Ace before it was too late. At the same time, Ace spoke with Garp in his cell, making it painfully clear that he rejected Roger as a father and saw Whitebeard as his only true one. Luffy's search through the prison quickly turned into chaos. On level 1, he ran into Buggy, who had escaped his cell and immediately decided that teaming up with Luffy was the best way to survive. Buggy tried to bargain and lie his way through the prison, but after the two crashed into level 2, they were joined by Mr. 3, who also saw Luffy's break-in as his chance to escape. The deeper they went, the more horrifying the prison became. From the blade-filled Crimson Hell to the monster-packed Beast Hell and the scorching Starvation Hell. Along the way, the prison finally realized Luffy's true goal. He had broken into Impel Down to save Ace. As Hancock met Ace and secretly delivered the news that Luffy had come for him, Luffy found a powerful new ally on level 3, Bon Clay. Overjoyed to see Luffy again, Bon immediately chose friendship over safety and joined the rescue mission. Together with Buggy and Mr. 3, they pushed into level 4, defeating Minotaurus and pressing on even as Ace begged from below for Luffy not to come any further. Outside the prison, the wider world was already shaking, with Kaido moving against Whitebeard and Shanks intercepting him, while Marineford prepared for war. In blazing hell, Luffy finally ran into Magellan, the monstrous chief warden whose poison powers made him almost untouchable. Even after hearing the danger, Luffy refused to back down because revealing how he entered the prison would endanger Hancock. He launched himself at Magellan anyway, sacrificing his own body just to land blows. But Magellan's poison overwhelmed him completely. Luffy was defeated, drenched in multiple deadly toxins, and sentenced to die in level 5's freezing wasteland. That was where Bon Clay's loyalty truly shined. Refusing to abandon Luffy, Bon disguised himself, outwitted the prison staff, searched desperately for a cure, and when none existed, dragged Luffy through the frozen hell toward the only miracle he could think of, Emporio Ivankov. Bon fought through wolves, cold, and exhaustion simply because Luffy was his friend. Their gamble paid off when they were rescued and taken to New Kama Land, a hidden paradise inside Impel Down ruled by Ivankov. There, while Bon and the others cheered him on without rest, Luffy endured brutal hormone treatment that consumed years of his life. Against all odds, he survived in less than a day, rose back to his feet, and prepared to continue the rescue of Ace. Marineford. As Ace stood on the execution platform at Marineford, the entire world watched and argued over whether Whitebeard would really come for him. The Marines had prepared for the worst. 100,000 elite soldiers, 50 battleships, the 3 admirals, the remaining warlords, and the fleet admiral of the Marines, Sengoku the Buddha. Sengoku made the war even more heavy by revealing the truth to the world. Ace was not just Whitebeard's 2nd Division commander, but was the son of the legendary pirate king, Gol D. Roger. He explained how Ace's mother, Porteous D. Rouge, had carried him for 20 months to keep him hidden from the world government, dying immediately after giving birth. That revelation stunned the world and dragged Garp back into painful memories of Roger entrusting Ace to him before his death. So Garp was in on this shit too. Yo, One Piece has some crazy plot development. All the things you think you know just start shifting and you start connecting the dots afterward. This is an amazing series, like, bro. As the shock spread, Whitebeard finally arrived. Instead of attacking from the front, he coated his ships and surfaced directly beneath Marineford's bay, bringing the Moby Dick and his allied crews right into the heart of the battlefield. Before the battle fully erupted, Ace's past unfolded. How he had formed the Spade Pirates, met Shanks to thank him for saving Luffy, clashed with Jinbei for 5 days, and eventually encountered Whitebeard. Though Ace resisted joining him at first and even tried to kill him numerous times, he eventually came to see Whitebeard as his true father figure. Later, after Blackbeard murdered Thatch, Ace ignored Whitebeard's warning and chased him, the very choice that led to his capture. In the present, Ace begged everyone to leave him, but Whitebeard and his sons refused to abandon him. Whitebeard struck first by cracking the air itself with the power of the Quake fruit, aka the Tremor fruit, sending massive sea quakes across the bay and creating enormous tsunamis. Aokiji froze the waves and then the bay itself, forcing the pirates and marines into direct combat on the ice. Mihawk tested Whitebeard's power, but Jozu intercepted his slash. Kizaru attacked from above only for Marco in his phoenix form to stop him. One of the marine admirals, Akainu, answered by destroying a giant iceberg with magma. Then, Little Oars Jr. charged forward, determined to save Ace out of love for the man who had once made him a giant straw hat. Even after Kuma blasted him, Doflamingo cut off his leg, and Moria impaled him. Oars Jr. dragged himself forward and opened a path for the pirates before collapsing just short of Ace. Whitebeard, furious but composed, ordered his forces to use that sacrifice to push into the plaza. Meanwhile, Luffy and the impelled down escapees finally reached Marineford in spectacular fashion. Their ship had been stranded atop one of the frozen tsunami waves, but after overhearing an order to execute Ace ahead of schedule, Ivankov blasted the ship forward, accidentally sending everyone crashing from the sky into the battlefield below. By luck, they landed in one of the few unfrozen patches of sea. Jinbei rescued the Devil Fruit users, and soon Luffy stood atop the wreckage and locked eyes with Ace. The battlefield erupted in disbelief as Crocodile, Ivankov, Buggy, Jinbei, and the escaped prisoners appeared in the middle of the war. Sengoku was furious, Garp was stunned, Hancock relieved, and even the warlords took notice. The war to save Ace then explodes into chaos almost immediately. Jinbei formally renounces his warlord title, Crocodile tries to take Whitebeard's life, and Luffy throws himself in the way to stop him, making it clear that even in the middle of a battlefield full of legends, his only goal is saving his brother. Whitebeard quickly notices the Straw Hat and connects Luffy to Shanks, even recalling that Shanks once said he had placed his missing arm on a bet on the new age of pirates. Luffy, fearless as ever, boldly declares that he will rescue Ace and one day become Pirate King himself, stunning both pirates and marines. Before charging ahead, he warns Whitebeard that the marines plan to execute Ace early, but Whitebeard realizes Sengoku leaked that information on purpose to throw the pirates into confusion. Even so, Luffy keeps pushing forward as Ivankov backs him up. Kuma attacks his former ally without hesitation. Hina tries to trap Luffy, and Moria unleashes zombies to slow him down. Ace, horrified to see his younger brother in the middle of such a war, yells at Luffy to stay away, claiming that he would be humiliated if a weakling saved him. Though the truth is, he simply does not want Luffy to die for him. Luffy refuses to listen, shouting that they are brothers and that no pirate code matters more than that. Then, the battlefield is rocked again when Sengoku reveals to everyone Luffy was the son of Monkey D. Dragon, the supreme commander and founder of the Revolutionary Army, bent on opposing the world government, and the son of Monkey D. Garp. How's that for family drama? Luffy barely reacts, smashing through Marines with Gear 3 and insisting that he will save Ace even if it kills him, a determination that impresses Whitebeard enough to make him order Marco not to let the boy die. As the war widens, Whitebeard begins directing the battlefield with terrifying insight. He temporarily allies with Buggy and escaped impelled down prisoners to avoid fighting them, while battling the Marines, ordering his subordinate crews to split left and right, and forces Sengoku and Garp to realize he has seen through their strategy. Jinbei defeats Moria's attempt to power himself up with Stolen Shadows, but Luffy is soon pinned by Smoker until Hancock intervenes with Haki, openly choosing Luffy over the Marines. She then secretly gives Luffy the key to Ace cuffs, and his grateful hug nearly makes her faint with joy. Elsewhere, Ivankov confronts Kuma and learns from Doflamingo the horrifying truth. Kuma has been fully transformed by Vegapunk into PX-0, a mindless weapon of the government. Ivankov is devastated but refuses to back down, deciding to hold Kuma off while sending his followers to support Luffy. Meanwhile, Crocodile cuts through everything in his way and keeps moving toward Whitebeard. Clashing with both Jozu and Doflamingo, while Mihawk personally steps in to test Luffy, Luffy knows he cannot afford a real duel, so he sprints, dodges, improvises, and even shamelessly uses Buggy as a human shield to survive. Marco finally sends Vista to stall Mihawk, and Mihawk realizes something important about Luffy. The boy has an uncanny gift for turning everyone around him into allies, which Mihawk views as the most dangerous power on the sea. Then, Sengoku's true endgame begins. Sentomaru arrives with an army of pacifistas, and the Marines try to box Whitebeard's forces into the bay. Whitebeard's earlier order to split his men suddenly makes perfect sense, because it saves them from total encirclement. The pacifistas begin mowing down pirates with beams from their mouths and hands, while Sengoku pulls the Marines back and prepares for the final phase. Buggy's hijacked broadcast briefly keeps civilians updated, but the real shock comes when Squard suddenly appears before Whitebeard and stabs him straight through the chest. Everyone freezes. Squard, manipulated by Aki Inu, believes Whitebeard made a secret deal with the Marines to sacrifice all the subordinate captains in exchange for saving Ace and his own core crew. He also burns with hatred after learning Ace is Roger's son. Yet, Whitebeard does not retaliate. Instead, he embraces Squard like a father, comforting a foolish son, and calmly explains that the Marines preyed on his hatred and fear. To prove his sincerity to everyone else, Whitebeard shatters the frozen sea and gives his subordinates a path to retreat if they choose. Rather than abandon him, they rally harder than ever. Whitebeard accepts that he is an old man with one heart and decides to use what remains of his life to secure the future for the next generation. He charges toward the execution platform, tilts Marine Ford itself with a colossal quake, defeats giants like John Giant, and forces the Marines to activate giant iron walls and an artillery trap. Akainu rains magma down, destroys the Moby Dick, and turns the enclosed bay into a hellscape of fire, cannon blasts, and boiling sea. Still, Luffy keeps forcing his way forward. Luffy's desperation reaches another level when Oars Jr., thought to be finished, rises again long enough for Jinbei to launch Luffy in a column of water straight over the walls and in front of all three admirals. It is one of the boldest moments in the war, but also one of the clearest reminders that Luffy is still outmatched. Kizaru kicks him aside, Aokiji wounds him, and only intervention from Crocodile, Marco, Hancock, and the Whitebeard pirates keep him alive. Even so, the pirates finally break into the plaza itself. Whitebeard storms in like a natural disaster, clashes head-on with Akainu, and shakes Marineford apart, but the cost is enormous. Marco is cuffed with Sea Stone and riddled with light attacks by Kizaru. Jozu is frozen and shattered by Aokiji, and Whitebeard's own sickness catches up with him at the worst possible time. As Ace stands on the verge of execution, Luffy, broken and exhausted, begs Ivankov for another shot of hormones, even though it could destroy his body. Ivankov warns him that he is throwing his life away, but Luffy says failing to save Ace would be worse. Revived through sheer stubbornness, he charges again, even knocking out Kobe when the young Marine tries to stop him. When the executioners finally move, Luffy unleashes a tremendous burst of Conqueror's Haki without even understanding what he has done, knocking them out and shocking everyone on the battlefield. Whitebeard immediately orders all forces to support Luffy, effectively betting the future all on him. Pirates who barely knew Luffy moments before now shield him with their lives. Crocodile and Mr. One even interfere to block Mihawk. The whole war narrows to one objective: get Luffy to Ace. At last, Luffy reaches the platform with the key Hancock gave him, but after everything he has endured, can barely stand. Mr. 3 steps in at a crucial moment to help unlock Ace's cuffs, and together, the brothers finally break free. For one brief stretch, the impossible seems to have happened. Ace and Luffy fight side by side, fire and rubber, crashing through the surrounding Marines as Whitebeard's men open a path for them to retreat. Whitebeard, despite being battered, keeps holding back the enemy and even laughs when Ace bows and tearfully calls him a good father. But the Marines still have one last weapon: Akainu's cruelty. He taunts the fleeing pirates, calling Whitebeard a loser from a dead era, and Ace cannot ignore the insult. He turns back, clashes with Akainu, and is overpowered because magma burns hotter than lava. When Akainu then goes after the weakened Luffy, Ace steps in front of his brother and takes the fatal blow through the chest. Ace dies in Luffy's arms, thanking everyone who showed him love. Luffy completely breaks. Whitebeard, shattered by Ace's death, unleashes his full rage and nearly destroys the man and Marineford itself. Then Blackbeard arrives, kills Whitebeard after a brutal confrontation in a sudden twist, and steals his devil fruit power, plunging the battlefield into even greater madness. The war only ends when Kobe finally screams for the fighting to stop and is nearly killed by Akainu for it, only for Shanks to arrive at the last second. Shanks blocks Akainu, declares that Kobe's courage changed the future, and demands an end to the war. With the red-hair pirates now present, even the Marines stop. Law escapes with the unconscious Luffy and Jinbei aboard his submarine, while Buggy returns the Straw Hat at Shanks' request. The war closes, not with triumph, but with execution, grief, and a world permanently changed by Ace's death. Whitebeard's fall, and the passing of the Summit War of Marineford, known as the Greatest War of the Great Age of Pirates. Post-war. After the war ends, the world reacts in wildly different ways. Civilians and Marines celebrate Whitebeard's death, while pirates are electrified by his final declaration that the One Piece is real. But the victory brings no peace. With Whitebeard gone, the balance of the three great powers begins to crumble, and chaos spreads immediately as pirates like Brownbeard attack islands that Whitebeard once protected. At the same time, Hancock tracks Law's submarine, learns that Luffy is alive but in critical condition, and joins up with Ivankov, Jinbei, and the impelled down escapees. Jinbei is less worried about Luffy's body than what will happen when he wakes up and has to face Ace's death. To keep him safe, they bring Luffy to Amazon Lily. Elsewhere, Sengoku learns that Blackbeard caused a breakout of dangerous level 6 prisoners, but the world government chooses to hide that truth from the public. At Marineford, Gecko Moria is nearly executed by Doflamingo and pacifistas because the government now considers him too weak to remain a warlord. 2 weeks later, the aftermath is still spreading across the seas as new pirates rise everywhere. On Amazon Lily, Luffy wakes up in a frenzy, trying to convince himself Ace's death was only a dream. Law warns that if he keeps rampaging, his wounds will reopen and kill him. Hancock is desperate to see him, but is kept away. Eventually, Luffy calms down enough to remember everything, and Jinbei confirms the truth. Ace is dead. Luffy breaks down completely. This grief shifts the story into a long flashback to Dawn Island, where Garp, young Luffy with Curly Dawn, who was already entrusted with Ace via Garp as well. The two boys hated each other at first, but Luffy kept chasing after Ace no matter how often Ace tried to ditch or nearly kill him. Eventually, Luffy followed Ace into Grey Terminal, where Ace was secretly working with another boy, Sabo, to save money for a pirate ship. After Luffy is captured and tortured by pirates, he refuses to betray Ace and Sabo, proving how badly he wants connection and how terrified he is of being alone. That loyalty leads Ace and Sabo to save him, and from then on, the three begin living, training, and surviving together like brothers. The flashback deepens when Sabo reveals he is actually a runaway noble from the Goa Kingdom, who hates the cruelty and emptiness of his class. Ace, Sabo, and Luffy seal their bond by sharing sake cups and swearing brotherhood. But their happiness is shattered when Sabo is dragged back home, and the nobles secretly arrange for Grey Terminal to be burned down to impress an incoming celestial dragon. Ace and Luffy are caught in the fire and nearly killed, while Sabo escapes his home, witnesses the truth of the massacre, and encounters Dragon. Dawn and the bandits rescue Ace and Luffy from Blue Jam, and Dragon's revolutionaries save many of the people trapped in the flames. Soon after, Sabo tries to flee the kingdom by sea, only for a celestial dragon to casually blow up his boat. Believing Sabo dead, Ace and Luffy are devastated. Sabo's letter later reaches them, asking Ace to take care of Luffy. In response, the two promise to grow stronger, become pirates, and chase true freedom. The story then shows the years passing. Ace leaves first at 17, thanking Dawn before setting sail, and Luffy follows 3 years later, finally strong enough to depart on his own journey. The story finally returns to the present, where Luffy is still crushed by grief and says for the first time that he is too weak to become Pirate King. Back in East Blue, Dodon attacks Garp in rage and sorrow, insisting that the one suffering most is Luffy. In the New World, Shanks and Marco hold a funeral for Ace and Whitebeard. Jinbei then forces Luffy to stop drowning in guilt and asks him what he still has left. Through his tears, Luffy realizes the answer: his crew. That realization gives him something to live and fight for again. Just then, Rayleigh arrives on Amazon Lily, setting the stage for Luffy's next step forward. With the Straw Hats scattered across the world, each of them reacts to the news of Luffy and Ace in a different way. Meanwhile, at Sabaody, Duval and the Rosy Life Riders continue guarding the Thousand Sunny, while Shaky believes Rayleigh has already reached Luffy. Around the world, others connected to the Straw Hats react too. Vivi, Cobra, and Karu worry, Crocodile decides to head back to the New World, and Buggy receives a shocking message from the government. Elsewhere, the Five Elders, a council of the 5 highest-ranking celestial dragons, collectively titled the highest authorities of the world government, discuss Blackbeard, the vacant warlord seats, and the meaning of the D, which, if you haven't noticed, Monkey D Luffy, Gold D Roger, D Garp, D Dragon, there's something called the Will of D going on. We gonna tap into that later. Sengoku then resigns and Garp steps down, while Smoker requests a transfer to the New World, and Kobe is told that he has awakened Haki. The Marines then reveal that Luffy has caused a stir as he returned to Marineford with Jinbei and Rayleigh, circled the island, rang the Ox Bell 16 times, laid flowers, and prayed. To the public, it looks like mourning, but to the Marines, it signals the end of one era and the beginning of another. That message spreads across the seas. Kid sees it as a challenge, while Hawkins, Drake, Apu, Law, and Blackbeard all begin making moves of their own. On Amazon Lily, the real meaning becomes clear. Luffy had 3D on his arm, crossed out, with 2Y next to it, which means the crew should not reunite in 3 days, but in 2 years. Luffy deliberately drew attention to himself so his crew would understand they were too weak for the New World and needed time to grow. Chopper studies medicine and plants, Sanji trains for attack cuisine, Nami studies advanced weather science, Robin goes with the revolutionaries, Frankie studies Vegapunk's blueprints, Usopp trains with Heracles and learns pop greens, and Zoro humbles himself and asks Mihawk to train him. Finally, Jinbei parts from Luffy, promising to wait at Fishman Island, and Rayleigh brings Luffy to Ruskaina. There, Rayleigh explains the basics of Haki, demonstrating it against a charging elephant. He lays out that there are 3 types: the ability to sense others, observation Haki, the ability to strengthen one's body, and attacks, armament Haki, and the rare power to overwhelm others with spirit alone, Conqueror's Haki. Luffy realizes he has already encountered these powers in different forms throughout his journey thus far, but Rayleigh tells him that now he must truly learn to control them. He says that 2 years should be enough time to teach Luffy the basics of all 3. And with that, the Straw Hats spend a full 2 years apart training for the battles in the New World ahead. Luffy leaving his straw hat and card in the island's one safe place on a rock as he begins training to take over the New World. Return to Sabaody. 2 years after the Straw Hats separated, Luffy finally retrieves his straw hat and prepares to leave Ruskaina with Hancock and the Kuja pirates. He has clearly grown stronger, even befriending the island's dangerous animals. Hancock is still hopelessly in love with him, but Luffy casually rejects the idea of marriage and sets off for Sabaody Archipelago. Meanwhile, Sabaody has become chaotic. The Marines have shifted their base, Brook has become a superstar known as Soul King, and rumors spread that the Straw Hat Pirates have returned and are recruiting new members. Sanji arrives with the Okama and immediately celebrates seeing real women again. Yo, this man's gonna end up in the bin. At a bar, Nami runs into a group pretending to be the Straw Hats. These fake pirates, led by fake Luffy, are recruiting criminals and threatening people. When they try to intimidate Nami, Usopp appears and saves her with one of his new moves. The two reunite and escape while the fakes vow revenge. At the bar, Sanji learns that several crew members have already arrived. Frankie has been guarding the Thousand Sunny, which is now coded for the trip underwater. Robin arrives at the ship and sees Frankie's heavily upgraded body. Chopper, meanwhile, accidentally follows more fake Straw Hats, believing that they are Zoro, Sanji, Robin, and even himself. When fake Robin is kidnapped by government agents, Chopper panics, not realizing that she's just an imposter. The Marines then hear about the Straw Hats' return and send forces to Sabaody, including Sentomaru and 2 pacifistas. Luffy, disguised under a hood, accidentally runs into fake Luffy. When fake Luffy threatens him, Luffy calmly ignores him, dodges a point-blank shot, and knocks out the crew with his haki. Elsewhere, Sanji discovers that Zoro accidentally boarded the wrong ship, which he then cut in half after it submerged. The fake crew then gathers their recruits, including dangerous pirates like Caribou and Korobu. But the situation collapses when the Marines arrive. Fake Luffy is exposed as Damaro Black, a weak pirate pretending to be Luffy. Sentomaru realizes the real Luffy is nearby, and when a pacifista attacks, Luffy defeats it in one Gear 2 haki-powered shot. Zoro and Sanji arrive and instantly destroy another pacifista, proving how much stronger the trio has become. Before leaving, Luffy shouts to Rayleigh, thanking him and declaring that he will become Pirate King. Rayleigh, emotional, holds back the Marines while Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji escape. Perona briefly helps them too, warning them about the Marine ships. Finally, the Straw Hats reunite aboard the Thousand Sunny. Brook returns, Hancock blocks the Marines, and allies from each crew member's training journey help delay their pursuit. Frankie then activates the coded ship, and Nami explains how underwater sailing works. With that, Luffy thanks everyone for waiting 2 years, and the Straw Hats dive beneath the sea toward Fishman Island and the New World. Fishman Island. After the Straw Hats escape, Caribou and Korobu capture the remaining fake Straw Hats in No Man's Land. Furious that the imposters tricked them, Caribou reveals his Logia-type swamp powers and orders the fakes buried alive. Meanwhile, Sentomaru reports that Damaro Black and most of the fake recruits were captured, but the real Straw Hats have returned much stronger, easily destroying 2 pacifistas. Rayleigh watches the sea and remembers meeting Gold D. Roger, noting how much younger Roger resembled Luffy. He believes destiny is taking shape and that Luffy is proven worthy of the Straw Hat. Underwater, the Straw Hats admire the world beneath Sabaody. Nami explains how the ship's coating works and warns that too much damage could pop the bubble. Frankie then reveals what happened during the crew's absence. Hachan and Duval protected the Thousand Sunny until they were injured, and after that, Bartholomew Kuma guarded the ship for almost 2 years. Kuma, before losing his personality completely to the government's modifications, asked Vegapunk to program him to protect the Sunny until the Straw Hats returned. The crew then realizes they owe Kuma deeply, even though the next time they meet him, he may no longer be himself. As the Sunny descends, the Caribou pirates chase them, planning to kill the Straw Hats and gain fame. Their ship is then pulled by Momu, the sea cow from Arlong Park. But when Momu recognizes Sanji, Luffy, and Nami, he panics and flees, accidentally leaving only Caribou on the Sunny. Caribou pretends to surrender, but secretly plans to kill the crew one by one. However, Frankie eventually traps him inside a reinforced barrel. The crew then continues downward, but the route becomes dangerous. They encounter the downward plume and a massive kraken. Luffy, excited instead of afraid, decides to tame it, and Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji fight outside the ship using coating bubbles, showing off new abilities. Sanji's blue walk, Zoro's upgraded swordsmanship, and Luffy's armament haki-powered elephant gun. The Kraken is defeated, but the monster trio gets separated from the Sunny. The remaining crew then enters the dark deep sea, surrounded by terrifying creatures. They encounter a volcanic region, a giant anglerfish, the sea giant Watasumi, and the legendary ghost ship, the Flying Dutchman. Brook explains the curse legend of Vanderdecken, but the current Decken commands Watasumi to destroy the Sunny. Suddenly, the Kraken returns, now tamed by Luffy. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji then reunite with the ship just as an undersea volcano erupts, and the Sea King helps them escape, but falling rocks knock him out, sending the Sunny plummeting into the abyss. The Straw Hats survive and finally reach Fishman Island, a glowing island inside a giant bubble. Before entering, they are confronted by the new Fishman pirates, who give them 2 choices: join or be sunk. Luffy rejects them, and Frankie uses coup de burst to force their way inside. The ship's coasting bursts, scattering the crew. Luffy wakes up in Kami's house with Sanji, Chopper, and Usopp. Kami then introduced them to her mermaid friend and explains that Hachan is still recovering from injuries he suffered protecting the Sunny. In Mermaid Cove, Sanji is overwhelmed by the sight of mermaids and believes that he has found his all blue. Yo, this man is actually a clown. Like, no wonder they changed this man's character in the live action. The royal princess arrive looking for Straw Hats, but not to arrest them. They actually carry a message from Jinbei. However, Sanji suffers a life-threatening nosebleed, and the situation reveals a harsh island law. Fishmen and merfolk are forbidden from sharing blood with humans. Hammond explains that this resentment is tied to Fisher Tiger, who died after humans refused to donate blood. Luffy defeats Hammond and his beast using Haki, then escapes with Kami to find human blood donors for Sanji. At the Mermaid Cafe, Sanji is saved by 2 Okama donors, where a terrifying vision is shared with them about a man in a straw hat who will destroy Fishman Island. Meanwhile, unrest builds. Hody Jones, leader of the new Fishman pirates, takes energy steroids and brutally attacks fleeing pirates to prove Fishman's superiority. Caribou escapes his barrel and begins kidnapping mermaids to sell into slavery. King Neptune then invites Luffy's group to the palace as a thanks for saving the pet shark of the princess, Shirahoshi. At the palace, Luffy wanders into the hard shell tower and meets Shirahoshi, a giant mermaid princess who has been locked away for 10 years because of another enemy named Vanderdecken the Ninth, whose Mato power lets him target her from anywhere. When Decken throws an axe at her, Luffy saves her and offers to take her outside to the sea forest. At the same time, Hody and Decken form an alliance to overthrow the kingdom. The Straw Hats inside the palace end up fighting Neptune's guards after being falsely accused of kidnapping mermaids. Hody then invades the palace, reveals his hatred of humans, and floods the building. Zoro battles him underwater and wounds him badly, but Hody recovers with energy steroids and captures Neptune, Zoro, Usopp, and Brook. Luffy then escapes the palace with Shirahoshi hidden in Megalo's mouth and heads to the sea forest, where Shirahoshi visits her mother, Queen Otohime's grave for the first time. At the sea forest, Jinbei reunites with Luffy and reveals the painful history behind Fishman Island's hatred. Queen Otohime fought for peace with humans, where in contrast, Fisher Tiger had once freed the slaves from Mary Joie, but after being betrayed, formed the Sun Pirates. Tiger hated human cruelty, but refused to kill humans, hoping not to pass hatred to the next generation. His death triggers Arlong's hatred, Jinbei becoming a warlord, and Otohime's assassination, which all shaped the island's trauma. Jinbei reveals he released Arlong into East Blue and apologizes to Nami, but she forgives him, saying Arlong alone is responsible for what he did to her village. Meanwhile, Hody then broadcasts his coup, declaring himself the new king and threatening to execute Neptune in 3 hours. He also reveals he plans to kill everyone who supported Otohime's dream, and Jinbei tries to stop Luffy from fighting because a human defeating Hody could worsen racial tensions between the fishmen and humans. But after clashing briefly, they form a plan. At the plaza, Hody reveals he murdered Otohime himself and framed a human for it. Shirahoshi admits she always knew, but stayed silent because her mother asked her not to hold hatred. Just as Hody prepares to execute Neptune, Luffy bursts in and kicks him away. The Straw Hats arrive in full force. Luffy knocks out 50,000 enemies with Conqueror's Haki, and the crew shows off what they've learned over the past 2 years in an epic battle, defeating Hody's officers while Luffy battles Hody himself. But Vanderdecken throws a massive arc Noah at Shirahoshi, threatening to crush Fishman Island. Hody betrays Decken, wounds him, and tries to ensure Noah falls. Luffy then defeats Hody with Red Hawk and Elephant Gun, then desperately tries to destroy Noah before it hits the island. Shirahoshi's hidden power awakens, summoning Sea Kings who stop Noah's fall. With the island saved, Luffy collapses from blood loss. The old blood taboo is finally broken when Jinbei donates blood to save Luffy. Upon waking, Luffy asks Jinbei to join his crew, but he declines for now, saying he has unfinished business to attend to, but promises to join later if Luffy still wants him. The island then celebrates with a banquet. Robin then learns from Neptune that Shirahoshi is the ancient weapon Poseidon, the mermaid princess who can command Sea Kings, and that a historical figure named Joy Boy once made a promise involving Noah. Caribou overhears this secret, but is defeated before kidnapping Shirahoshi. The Straw Hats also clash indirectly with Big Mom after Luffy eats the candy meant as Fishman Island's tribute. Luffy challenges Big Mom over Denden Mushi, declaring he will defeat her and make Fishman Island his territory instead. Finally, the crew prepares to leave, and Shirahoshi tearfully asks Luffy to take her outside someday, and the Straw Hats make a pinky promise to return. With Fishman Island beginning to heal and trust humans again, the Straw Hats sail upward toward the New World, the Dressrosa Saga. Dressrosa aired in the One Piece anime from 2013 to 2016 in Japan and spans a total of 171 episodes. Punk Hazard. After leaving Fishman Island, the Straw Hats finally entered the New World. Their calm trip quickly turns chaotic when Luffy's fishing attracts a massive eel, which drags the Thousand Sunny into an underwater maelstrom called the White Storm. The crew survives and rises to the surface with the help of island whales, thrilling Brook because they remind him of Laboon. Once above the water, they spot a fiery island ahead, even though none of the log pose needles point there. Luffy wants to investigate it. Then, a distress call comes through the Den Den Mushi from someone on Punk Hazard, claiming his group is being attacked by a samurai. Despite Robin warning that it could be a trap, Luffy insists they go. Luffy, Zoro, Robin, and Usopp travel across the burning sea on the Mini Mary 2 and reach Punk Hazard, an island sealed off by the world government after a disaster happened 4 years earlier. They cut through the gate and discover a ruined former government facility. The island is strangely split between fire and ice, and the group soon encounters a dragon. After a brief fight, Zoro decapitates it and they discover a pair of talking human legs stuck under its head. Luffy naturally asks the legs to join the crew. What? Yo, look, how is Luffy so gullible yet so strong? Bro. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats left on the Sunny are knocked unconscious by gas and kidnapped except for Brook. Sanji, Nami, Chopper, and Frankie wake up inside a facility on Punk Hazard with a severed samurai head. They reassemble him and learn that he is searching for his son, Momonosuke. When they break out, they find a room full of giant children begging to be rescued. Nami, moved by their tears, refuses to abandon them, while Sanji and Frankie stay behind to fight hazmat-suited men. The island's mysteries deepen as Luffy's group crosses into the frozen side and encounters centaurs, including Brownbeard. Smoker and the G5 Marines also arrive, suspicious of the distress call. Outside the facility, they meet Trafalgar Law, who's now become a warlord of the sea. Smoker demands answers, but Law blocks him. When the escaping Straw Hats and children burst out, Law reveals his power by cutting apart the Marine ship, defeating Tashigi, stealing Smoker's heart, and swapping several people's minds and bodies, including Sanji, Nami, Frankie, and Chopper. The Straw Hats regroup and learn more about Punk Hazard. Brownbeard then explains that Caesar Clown, a former colleague of Vegapunk, supposedly saved the island's paralyzed prisoners after the chemical accident. But Smoker reveals the truth. Caesar caused the disaster himself while researching mass murder weapons. Chopper then discovers the children are being drugged with addictive candy containing NHC-10 and are being experimented on to become giants. Meanwhile, Caesar is exposed as the true villain, working under Joker, who is later revealed to be Don Quixote do Flamingo. Law forms an alliance with Luffy, revealing a plan to shake the New World by targeting one of the four emperors. Luffy accepts immediately after hearing the target is Kaido. Law's plan then requires kidnapping Caesar and destroying SAD, the substance used to create artificial Zoan devil fruits called Smiles. Caesar responds by releasing Smiley, a living poison weapon made from the gas that ruined Punk Hazard in the first place. Smiley eats a giant candy and transforms into Shinokuni, a deadly petrifying gas that begins swallowing the island. The counterattack begins once Law frees himself from Caesar's trap. The Straw Hats, G5 Marines, Smoker, and Law temporarily cooperate to escape the gas and stop Caesar. Luffy then goes after Caesar, and Smoker confronts Virgo while the others rescue the children. Monet, Caesar's Harpy assistant and Doflamingo's spy, delays Luffy and later fights Zoro and Tashigi. Zoro terrifies her with his killing intent, and Tashigi finishes her off. Elsewhere, Luffy meets Momonosuke, now transformed into a small dragon after eating an artificial devil fruit. Momonosuke reveals Caesar's experiments will eventually kill all the children, which pisses Luffy the hell off. Mocha then bravely swallows all the poison candy to stop the other children from eating it, nearly dying in the process, but Chopper and the Marines rush to save her. In the sad room, Law defeats Virgo by slicing him and the entire room apart, declaring that he has broken the gears of the New World. At the same time, Luffy finally defeats Caesar, sending him flying out of the facility in front of the watching underworld brokers. After this, Baby 5 and Buffalo arrive to retrieve Caesar, but Frankie, Nami, Usopp, and Law stop them. Caesar is ultimately captured, completing the first step of Law's plan. Afterward, the Marines and pirates hold an uneasy ceasefire. The children are handed over to Shishigi and the G5 Marines so they can be cured, while Brownbeard turns himself in to receive treatment. The Straw Hats share food with the children, Marines, and Caesar's former subordinates before leaving Punk Hazard. Law then contacts Doflamingo, revealing he has Caesar and demanding that Doflamingo resign from the 7 warlords by the next morning. Doflamingo rushes to Punk Hazard and nearly kills Smoker for refusing to reveal where Law and the Straw Hats went, but Kuzan, the former admiral known as Aokiji, arrives and saves him. Out at sea, the Straw Hats learn they are heading to Dressrosa to destroy the Smile Factory and weaken Kaido. The next morning, the newspaper confirms Doflamingo has resigned as warlord and king of Dressrosa, while also revealing Luffy and Law's alliance to the rest of the world. Dressrosa. After Doflamingo's fake resignation from the 7 warlords, the world is thrown into confusion. His underground business connections begin shaking, and Marine headquarters debates the danger of Luffy and Law's new alliance, and Sakazuki sends the new admiral Fujitora to deal with them. Law arranges to return Caesar Clown to Doflamingo at 3 p.m. on Greenbit, but the real plan is to destroy Dressrosa's Smile Factory. Meanwhile, Doflamingo prepares his own trap by offering Ace's Flame Fruit as a prize in the Corrida Coliseum, knowing Luffy couldn't ignore it. The Straw Hats arrive at Dressrosa, a lively country where humans live alongside walking toys. The crew then splits into teams. Law, Usopp, and Robin take Caesar to Greenbit. Nami, Chopper, Brook, and Momonosuke guard the Sunny, and Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Frankie, and Kinemon enter town to find the Smile Factory and rescue Kinemon's captured friend, Kanjuro. In town, they see a blind man being cheated at roulette by Doflamingo's men. Luffy exposes the scam, but the blind man uses a crushing gravity power to defeat the thugs, later revealed to be Admiral Fujitora. Zoro's sword, Shusui, is stolen by a fairy, so he chases after it with Sanji and Kinemon following. Luffy wants to chase too, but Frankie stops him so that they can gather more intel. They learn the Coliseum is holding a tournament for the Flame Fruit, and Luffy immediately decides to enter under the fake name Lucy.
What?
Bruh, this man's fake name is way too close to his real name. Okay, anyways, he's Joy Boy. Inside, he meets fighters from around the world. One of them, named Rebecca, reveals that she wants to win the fruit and defeat Doflamingo. The tournament then begins, with Burgess quickly winning A block and Bartolomeu winning B block, using his barrier fruit. Meanwhile, Law's team heads to Greenbit and discovers CP0 in Dressrosa, a sign that something major is happening. Sanji is then lured by a beautiful woman named Violet, who turns out to be a Don Quixote assassin, but Sanji senses she is hiding pain and refuses to believe she's truly evil. Violet, moved by his trust, betrays Doflamingo and reveals the truth. Doflamingo never actually resigned. The news was faked using his world noble connections. Sanji warns Law, but Doflamingo and Fujitora have already confronted him on Greenbit. Law refuses to hand Caesar over, admits the Straw Hats are his allies, and loses his warlord title. Fujitora then summons a meteor, beginning a 3-way clash between Law, Doflamingo, and Fujitora. Elsewhere, Robin and Usopp are captured by a tribe of dwarves living beneath Greenbit. Usopp lies and claims that he is a descendant of Mont Blanc Noland, their hero, which accidentally makes him central to their rebellion. The dwarves reveal that Doflamingo enslaved their people inside the Smile Factory, and that Sugar, one of Doflamingo's officers, has been turning humans into toys with her devil fruit. Once turned into toys, people are forgotten by everyone else who knew them. Frankie then meets the one-legged toy Thunder Soldier, who also wants to destroy the Smile Factory. He reveals Dressrosa's horrifying secret. All the living toys were once humans. Doflamingo used Sugar's powers to erase political enemies, criminals, rebels, and innocent people from memory. Thunder Soldier is later revealed to be Kiros, the legendary gladiator and Rebecca's father. 10 years earlier, Doflamingo flamed King Riku by controlling him and his soldiers, making them attack their own citizens. Then Doflamingo pretended to save the country and took the throne himself. Kyros was then transformed into a toy by Sugar and forgotten by his wife Scarlet and daughter Rebecca, and forced to raise Rebecca as a toy soldier after Scarlet was killed by Diamante. Meanwhile, back in the Colosseum, Luffy wins C-Block after clashing with Don Chinjao, who hates Luffy's grandfather Garp for flattening his drill-shaped head decades earlier and preventing him from accessing his treasure. Luffy restores Chinjao's head during their fight and defeats him, earning Chinjao's gratitude. Rebecca then enters D-Block, hated by the crowd because she is King Riku's granddaughter. Another character who's also been there, Cavendish, reveals his sleeping alter ego, Hakuba, and wipes out nearly everyone, but Rebecca survives and wins the block. Meanwhile, as Doflamingo overwhelms Law, the Sunny team is attacked by another one of Doflamingo's crewmates named Giola, who uses art powers to transform them and the ship. Brook tricks her into restoring his cane and violin and then defeats her. Law then escapes with Caesar and reaches the Sunny, where Sanji saves him from Doflamingo. Law tells Nami's group to take Caesar while he stays behind to hold Doflamingo off. Doflamingo eventually defeats Law and shoots him in front of Luffy, Zoro, and Kinemon, then takes him to the palace. At the Colosseum, Bellamy, who's made a return in this arc, is ordered to kill Luffy, but is betrayed by Doflamingo and attacked by Dellinger. Bartolomeu saves him. Then, in a shocking turn of events, Luffy is reunited with his long-lost brother, thought to be dead, Sabo, who is now second in command of the Revolutionary Army. Sabo takes Luffy's place as Lucy to win the Flame Fruit, while Luffy, Zoro, and Kinemon leave to rescue Law and defeat Doflamingo. Sabo wins the final round, eats Ace's fruit, and uses the Flame Fist, inheriting Ace's will. After this, the Tontata Dwarf tribe launch Operation SOP, knock Sugar unconscious, restore the toys to human form, and expose Doflamingo's crimes. Usopp, Robin, and the dwarves infiltrate the underground port, but Treble and Sugar defeat them. Robin is turned into a toy and Usopp nearly runs away. However, hearing the dwarves still believe in him, he returns and admits he lied, but chooses to become their hero now. Sugar tries to torture him by feeding him the ultra spicy Tata Babasco, but Usopp's horrifying reaction face scares her unconscious. The toys across Dressrosa become human again, the lost memories return, and the country erupts into chaos. As Kyros regains his human form, he immediately goes after Doflamingo, seemingly decapitating him. But it is only a string clone. Doflamingo activates the bird cage surrounding Dressrosa with deadly strings, cutting off communication and trapping everyone inside. He announces a twisted survival game: kill him or capture his enemies for rewards. He places bounties on Luffy, Law, Zoro, Usopp, Robin, Kinemon, Sabo, Kyros, Rebecca, Viola, and King Riku, with Usopp receiving the highest bounty in the game.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Pika then rearranges the island, raising the palace and Smile Factory above the ground. Luffy, Zoro, Law, and the freed Colosseum fighters begin racing toward the palace. The gladiators from earlier slowly become allies, clearing a path for Luffy, while Zoro stays behind to fight Pika, whose stone powers allow him to merge with the island's structures. Frankie battles Senor Pink at the Smile Factory, while the dwarves free their enslaved comrades. Sabo then blocks Fujitora and the Marines to protect Luffy. As battles erupt across Dressrosa, the dwarves then destroy the Smile Factory, crippling Doflamingo's operation. On the palace roof, Law confronts Doflamingo and reveals the reason for his hatred. As a child, Law survived the destruction of Flevance, a country poisoned by amber lead and erased by the world government. Terminally ill and full of hatred, he joined the Don Quixote pirates. Doflamingo's younger brother, Corazon, secretly a marine, took pity on Law and tried to save him. Corazon, whose real name was Don Quixote Rocinante, discovered that Law's name was Trafalgar D. Water Law. And due to this, if his older brother or anyone else found out, Trafalgar would be shown no mercy. So, Rocinante stole the op fruit and forced Law to eat it, curing his illness. but was killed by Doflamingo while protecting him. Back in the present, with Law and Doflamingo in the middle of their fight, Doflamingo cuts off his arm and nearly kills him. Luffy is delayed by Bellamy, who refuses to betray Doflamingo despite being discarded by him. Luffy reluctantly defeats Bellamy with one punch, respecting his resolve, then reaches Doflamingo. Law manages to land an attack, rupturing Doflamingo's organs, but Doflamingo stitches himself internally with strings and keeps fighting. Trouble is then defeated by Law, but triggers an explosion, forcing Luffy to carry on alone. Realizing Gear 2 is too weak and Gear 3 is too slow, Luffy activates Gear 4, Bound Men. Gear 4 overwhelms Doflamingo, sending him crashing through Dressrosa. But Doflamingo reveals his awakened devil fruit powers, turning buildings into strings. Luffy nearly finishes him, but Gear 4 runs out, leaving him helpless for 10 minutes. The Coliseum fighters, Gats, Law, and Sabo, protect Luffy while Dressrosa's people and even Fujitora push against the shrinking birdcage. Doflamingo tries to force Rebecca to kill Viola, but Law switches Viola with Luffy at the last second. Luffy returns, reactivates Gear 4, breaks through Doflamingo's final attack and defeats him with King Kong Gun. The birdcage then disappears and Dressrosa is finally free. Afterward, Fujitora exposes the truth to the world and kneels before King Riku, apologizing for the world government's role in allowing Dressrosa's suffering. Sabo visits the sleeping Luffy and tells Zoro, Robin, and Frankie how he survived his childhood accident, joined the Revolutionary Army, lost his memories, but then regained them again after hearing news of Ace's death. He leaves Luffy a life card before departing. Now, elsewhere in the world, a humongous monster jumps 10,000 meters down from a sky island and lands right on top of the other Worst Generation members alliance, consisting of Kid, Appu, and Hawkins. This monster being none other than Kaido, who is introduced as one of the 4 emperors known as the strongest creature alive, saying that he's ready to start the biggest war in history and take down the world that he considers being mundane. 3 days later, the Straw Hats prepare to escape as Fujitora is finally ordered to capture them. Luffy detours to Rebecca, helping her reject palace life so she can live with Kiros. The gladiators then help the Straw Hats escape to Orlumbus's ship. 7 groups then pledge themselves to Luffy as his subordinates, but Luffy refuses to command anyone. They choose to serve him anyway and form the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. As Dressrosa begins healing under King Riku, Doflamingo is taken away to Impel Down, warning that his fall will throw the world into chaos. The Straw Hats and Law sail toward Zou aboard Bartolomeu's ship and receive new bounty posters. Everyone's bounty has increased, but Sanji's poster shocks him the most, as he is now wanted only alive. Whole Cake Island Saga aired in the One Piece anime from 2016 to 2019 in Japan and spans a total of 143 episodes. God damn! Zou. After leaving Dressrosa, the Straw Hats sail toward Zou, aboard the Going Luffy Senpai, only to discover that Bartolomeu's crew barely knows how to navigate. Elsewhere, the world reacts to Doflamingo's defeat. The warlord Edward Weevil, claiming to be Whitebeard's son, continues destroying Whitebeard's former subordinate crews under the direction of his mother, Buckin. After hearing Luffy defeated Doflamingo, they decide to go after him for information on Marco the Phoenix. Meanwhile, the Revolutionary Army celebrates victories caused by Doflamingo's fall, but Burgess secretly discovers their base, Baltigo. 1 week later, the Straw Hats reach Zou and realize it is not a normal island, but a civilization built on the back of a massive 1,000-year-old elephant. Kanjuro reveals that Zou is home to the Mink tribe, who are rumored to hate humans. The crew finds the Thousand Sunny docked at the elephant's leg and says goodbye to the Barto Club. Then rides Kanjuro's poorly drawn dragon, Ryunosuke, up the elephant. During the climb, a falling monkey knocks Kinemon and Kanjuro back down, so the rest continue without them. At the top, the Straw Hats and Law explore the island, which is in ruins. They encounter Carrot, a rabbit mink, and Wanda, a canine mink wearing Nami's clothes. This alarms the crew, especially when Wanda mentions the corpse of their crewmate. Luffy, meanwhile, runs into the guardians of the whale forest and Law's crew, including Beepo, who is revealed to be a mink. Wanda stops the fight and explains that Zou was recently destroyed by Jack of the Beast Pirates. The group reaches the Right Belly Fortress, where the Straw Hats are shocked to receive a warm welcome from the Minx. Nami, Chopper, and Brooke reunite with them, and the corpse turns out to just be Brooke.
Bruh.
But Nami tearfully reveals that something happened to Sanji. She explains that Sanji's group escaped Big Mom's ship and arrived at Zou after Jack's attack. They found the Minx crucified and poisoned by Caesar's gas weapon. Sanji forced Caesar to clear the poison while Chopper treated the victims, saving the Ming tribe from annihilation. Wanda then recounts Jack's invasion. 17 days earlier, Jack arrived demanding the ninja Raizo. The Minx denied Raizo was there and fought Jack's forces for 5 days and nights. Inuarashi ruled by day and Nekomamushi by night, both matching Jack in battle. But Jack eventually used Caesar's poison gas, leaving the Minx helpless. He tortured Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, and their warriors, then left to rescue Doflamingo. This means Luffy and Law indirectly saved Zou by defeating Doflamingo. The story then shifts to Sanji's disappearance. 2 days earlier, Picoms and Capone arrived on Zou looking for Caesar and Sanji. Picoms, a mink native of Zou, was grateful the Straw Hats saved his people and offered to spare them in exchange for Caesar. Beige, however, shot Picoms for putting emotions over the mission. Beige revealed his castle body powers, captured Caesar and the Straw Hats, and presented Sanji with a wedding invitation. Sanji, third son of the Vinsmoke family, was to marry Charlotte Pudding, Big Mom's daughter. Sanji refused at first, but after Vito whispered a secret to him and Beige threatened the crew, Sanji chose to go. He threw Nami, Chopper, and Brooke out of Beige's body, used Caesar as a hostage to protect them, and promised he would return. His note simply said he had to see a woman and would be back soon. In the present, Brooke fears Sanji may never return because marrying into Big Mom's family could make him no longer part of the Straw Hats. Zoro warns that they are already targeted by Kaido and should not recklessly provoke Big Mom too, but Luffy decides he'll go save Sanji himself. After this, it's revealed that Sanji's family is the Vinsmoke family, leaders of the military organization Germa 66, a family of assassins, and that makes Sanji a prince. Luffy is unfazed and demands to be taken to the tea party. Law warns that Kaido will likely come for them, but the Minx are touched by his concern and throw a party. The next major twist comes when Kinemon and Kanjuro finally arrive on Zou. The Straw Hats panic because they believe the Minx hate samurai, especially after Jack's torture over Raizo. But when Kinemon asks for Raizo, the Minx kneel and reveal that Raizo has been safe all along. They were allies of the Kozuki family and would rather die than betray him. Kinemon then reveals that Momonosuke is not his son, but the heir of Kozuki Oden, daimyo of Kuri and Wano. They then bow to Momonosuke and agree to a truce. The group is then taken inside the whale-shaped tree where Raizo is chained near a red poneglyph. Robin translates it and learns it's a road poneglyph, one of 4 stones that reveal the route to Laugh Tale. The other known road poneglyphs are held by Big Mom and Kaido. The rulers reveal the Kozuki family created the poneglyphs 800 years ago, and Oden could read them. Oden sailed with Roger, learned a secret about Laugh Tale, and was executed by Kaido and Wano's shogun while protecting Momonosuke and his retainers. Kinemon asks Luffy and Law to help defeat Kaido and open Wano's borders. Luffy refuses to accept, but when Momonosuke tearfully declares that he wants to avenge his parents and defeat Kaido, Luffy finally agrees. The Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance is then formed, but Luffy insists that rescuing Sanji comes first. Jack suddenly returns and attacks, planning to kill the elephant instead of invading Zou again. Luffy and Momonosuke hear the elephant's voice, but only Momonosuke can command it. The elephant reveals it has been sentenced to walk the seas forever and can only fight when ordered. So Momonosuke tells the elephant to attack, and the elephant destroys Jack's entire fleet with one swing of its trunk. Jack, however, survives underwater, but his fleet is gone. Afterwards, the alliance splits. Momonosuke stays on Zou to communicate with the elephant, while Nekomamushi plans to find Marco for help against Kaido. Luffy forms the Sanji retrieval team, and Usopp gives Nami an upgraded sorcery climb attack, though she avoids paying him properly. After they leave, Luffy grabs the team and jumps off the elephant. Elsewhere, world leaders prepare for the Leveille, including Vivi and King Cobra, Dalton and Koreha, King Riku and Rebecca, and Neptune's family with Shirahoshi. At sea, Carrot secretly joins Luffy's group, thrilled to see the outside world. The team then reads shocking news. Baltigo, the Revolutionary Army's base, has been destroyed by Blackbeard. Luffy worries about Sabo, but Pedro notes the paper would have said if Dragon or Sabo had been captured or killed. Meanwhile, Kaido rages drunkenly after hearing Jack failed and that his smile supply is ruined, while Kid sits defeated nearby. Whole Cake Island. After being taken to Toto Land, Sanji refuses to accept his forced wedding situation, but Vito shows him a picture of Charlotte Pudding, and Sanji is instantly smitten. Vito also reveals his admiration for Germa 66, who are known as villains in the comic Sora, Warrior of the Sea. Meanwhile, the Sanji retrieval team enters Big Mom's territory, but quickly runs into trouble when Luffy eats a poisonous fish and nearly dies. Yo, Luffy, what are you doing, bro? They are saved by Sanji's sister, Reiju, who uses her poison abilities to remove the toxin from Luffy. Reiju and Yonju explain that Sanji's updated Only Alive bounty allowed the Vinsmokes to locate him for the arranged marriage. The team later reaches Cacao Island, where Luffy and Chopper are amazed that everything is made of chocolate. After they eat part of a building, its owner, Charlotte Pudding, saves them and brings them to her cafe. Pudding reveals that she is Sanji's fiancée, but she seems kind and tells the crew that Sanji still wants to return to them. She gives them a secret route to Whole Cake Island, but when they return to the Sunny, all that's left is a warning telling them to turn back. Elsewhere, Jinbei asks the Sun Pirates for permission to leave Big Mom's crew and officially join the Straw Hats. His crew supports him, but when he asks Big Mom directly, she demands that he spin a roulette wheel to pay a price for leaving. Realizing the wheel could cost him his life and endanger his crew, Jinbei withdraws his request. At the same time, Big Mom's terrifying power is shown when she falls into a hunger rampage for Crokombush, destroys part of Sweet City, and drains the lifespan from her son Moscato before Jinbei stops her by feeding her the desserts that she wants. Yo, this girl is a fat ass demon. Following Pudding's route, the Sanji retrieval team reaches Whole Cake Island. Pedro and Brook split off to steal a copy of Big Mom's road poneglyph, while Luffy, Nami, Chopper, and Carrot enter the seducing woods. There, the forest itself is alive and hostile. They encounter fake versions of their friends, the buried giant Pound, and Charlotte Brûlée, who uses mirrors to trap Carrot and Chopper in the Miro world. Pound reveals that he was once Big Mom's husband, and that the homies are created from lifespans taken from Toto Land's citizens. Nami realizes Lola was Big Mom's daughter and uses Lola's life card to make the homies obey her. Luffy then faces Sweet Commander Charlotte Cracker. At first, Cracker overwhelms him with the endless biscuit soldiers, but Nami helps by softening them with rain, allowing Luffy to eat them. After an exhausting 11-hour battle, Luffy uses Gear 4 Tankman to launch Cracker away and defeat him. This triggers a state of emergency in Toto Land. Meanwhile, Sanji reunites with his biological family, the Vinsmokes. He fights his father Judge and proves he is strong, but Judge uses soldiers as human shields and defeats him with underhanded tactics. Sanji is then forced to wear explosive cuffs that will destroy his hands if he runs. Judge also threatens Zeph in the East Blue, trapping Sanji emotionally. Sanji's brothers, Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji, show themselves to be cruel, genetically modified soldiers with no empathy. In a flashback, we see Sanji remembers being bullied as a child, rejected by Judge for being normal, and locked in a dungeon, and eventually freed by Reiju, who helped him escape to the East Blue. Back in the battlefield, after Luffy defeats Cracker, he and Nami finally find Sanji's carriage. Luffy happily runs to him, but Sanji, trying to protect Zeph and the crew, kicks him away and pretends he has chosen his royal family over the Straw Hats. Luffy refuses to fight back, and after Sanji beats him down and leaves, Luffy declares he will wait in that spot and will not eat anything except food Sanji makes. Big Mom's forces then overwhelm Luffy and Nami and imprison them in the prisoner library. Pudding visits them and reveals her true nature. She plans to murder Sanji at the wedding, and Big Mom plans to massacre the Vinsmokes. Damn! Who else did not see this one coming? Pudding also reveals her third eye. Sanji overhears the truth when he brings food to her room and is devastated. Reiju, after being shot and having her memory altered by Pudding, learns the truth from Sanji and urges him to run, revealing that their mother Sora sacrificed herself to save Sanji. At the same time, Brook successfully infiltrates Big Mom's treasure room and copies the poneglyphs, but Big Mom catches and defeats him. Pedro creates a distraction outside and battles Tamago, revealing that he had lost much of his lifespan to Big Mom 5 years earlier. Chopper and Carrot escape the Miro World trap by defeating Brulee's group and later help rescue Brook from Big Mom's room. Brook reveals that he hid the poneglyph copies inside his skull. Jinbei then frees Luffy and Nami from the prisoner library, officially joining their side. Luffy finds Sanji at the promised spot, starving but still waiting. Sanji gives him a ruined bento, which Luffy happily eats. He claims that he can't return, but Luffy punches him and forces him to admit the truth. He wants to save his family. Luffy instantly agrees to help. Jinbei suggests an alliance with Beige, who is also plotting to assassinate Big Mom. The Straw Hats and Fire Tank Pirates meet at Beige's hideout and form a risky plan. Beige reveals that Big Mom becomes vulnerable when Mother Carmel's portrait is damaged. At the wedding, Sanji surprises Pudding by calling her third eye beautiful, causing her to emotionally break down and fail to shoot him. Katakuri tries to intervene, but the chaos begins as Luffy and his animal duplicates burst from the wedding cake. Jinbei publicly leaves Big Mom's crew, and Brook destroys Carmel's portrait, and Big Mom enters a screaming mental breakdown. Yo, honestly, I can't handle this woman. This girl's annoying as hell. Unhinged behavior with her big bone ass. During the chaos, Sanji frees the Vinsmokes, but Beige's assassination attempt fails when Big Mom's scream destroys the KX launchers. Big Mom's past is then revealed. As a child on Elbaf, Charlotte Linlin was abandoned for being uncontrollably destructive. Mother Carmel took her in, but Carmel was secretly a child trafficker selling orphans to the world government. During Linlin's 6th birthday feast, Carmel and the other children mysteriously disappeared while Linlin was eating, leaving only Struzen as a witness. Linlin inherited Carmel's dream of a world where all races lived together, but twisted it into her own monstrous vision. Back in the present, the Alliance barely escapes when the Tame Tabako bomb from Fishman Island explodes, causing Whole Cake Chateau to collapse. Struzen softens the fall by turning part of the castle into cake. Big Mom then falls into another craving, this time for the destroyed wedding cake. Pudding, Chiffon, and Sanji begin baking a replacement cake on Cacao Island to stop her rampage. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats flee through the seducing woods, but Big Mom catches up. Pedro sacrifices himself by detonating explosives to stop them and free the Sunny, allowing the crew to escape. Luffy drags Katakuri into the Miro world so his crew can get away. Luffy then battles Katakuri in a brutal duel. However, gets dominated by him with advanced observation hockey. But Luffy slowly improves during the fight. When Flampe interferes and causes Luffy to be badly wounded, Katakuri stabs himself in the same spot to keep the fight fair. Well, look at this, ain't this just a nice guy? Luffy activates Gear 4, Snake Man, and the two exchange their strongest attacks, with Luffy finally defeating him as he falls on his back, acknowledging Luffy's will. Sanji then rescues Luffy from the island with help of Germa 66. The Sunny is then cornered by Big Mom's fleet, but the Sun Pirates arrive and open an escape route. Jinbei stays behind to help his old crew, promising to reunite with Luffy and Wano. Big Mom eventually eats Sanji's cake and is satisfied, while the Straw Hats escape Totoland. As the arc ends, Sanji learns of Pedro's sacrifice and cooks for his crew, paralleled with Zeph et Baratier feeding hungry pirates, showing that Sanji's true family and values come not from the Vinsmokes, but Zeph, the man who raised him. Lovely. After escaping Totoland, Luffy, Sanji, Nami, Chopper, Brook, and Carrot sail toward Wano. On the Sunny, Luffy and Chopper discover the raid suit Niji secretly gave Sanji, but Sanji refuses to try it. Nami also reveals that Zeus is now inside her climate attack. Soon, the crew receives the newspaper covering their clash with Big Mom. Sanji's thrilled that his bounty finally surpasses Zoro's, but horrified that his poster uses the Vinsmoke name. Luffy thinks his bounty dropped to 150 million, only for everyone to realize he missed a zero and that his new bounty is a whopping 1.5 billion. Around the world, people react to Luffy's new reputation, and because of his actions against Big Mom and the belief that the 7 powerful crews serve under him, the world begins calling him the 5th Emperor. Shanks is pleased and feels a reunion with Luffy may be coming soon. Kaido, Big Mom, and Blackbeard elsewhere react with irritation and doubt. On Fishman Island, Neptune prepares to attend the Leveille and considers declaring Fishman Island under the Straw Hats' protection because of Jinbei's actions. Meanwhile, various royal families head toward Marie Joie for the Leveille. Kobe rescues Princess Komane from pirates and reunites with Rebecca, Kiros, King Riku, and Elizabello. When Kobe reads about Luffy's new bounty, he cries with joy. The Revolutionary Army, now based on a new island, prepares for its own move. Dragon and Sabo discuss declaring war on the world nobles during the Leveille, while the 4 revolutionary commanders, Morley, Bello, Betty, Lindbergh, and Karasu, help liberate the Lucia Kingdom from the Peachbeard pirates. At New Marine Ford, Sakazuki learns Fujitora has gone to Marie Joie and sends Ryokugyu to remove him, though he doesn't really care. Fujitora then reveals he met Vegapunk and learned of a new invention that could make the 7 Warlords system unnecessary. At the Red Port, royals gather to ascend the Red Line. Shirahoshi sees the sun for the first time, while Sabo, Karasu, and Morley secretly infiltrate Marie Joie in disguise. At the castle, while the royals socialize, Vivi, Rebecca, and Shirahoshi bond over Luffy, while Walpole insults Vivi before Dalton intervenes. Elsewhere, Doflamingo sits in Impel Down, wondering if assassins will silence him because he knows Marie Joie's hidden treasure. Elsewhere, deep within the castle, a mysterious figure approaches, a giant straw hat. Tensions rise further when Big Mom contacts Kaido about Luffy. The Marines intercept the call and worry about 2 emperors meeting, while Garp and Hina mention the lingering threat of rocks. Meanwhile, a hooded figure then meets privately with the 5 elders to discuss a certain pirate. I wonder who that could be. The Leveille then turns dark when Saint Charlos tries to enslave Shirahoshi. Leo and Sai attempt to stop him, but CP0 protects Charlos. Neptune nearly abandons Odahime's dream to save his daughter, but Don Quixote Miosgard intervenes, striking Charlos and freeing Shirahoshi. Miosgard, changed by Otahime's kindness years ago, promises to protect her. Meanwhile, Jewelry Bonnie infiltrates the domain of the gods disguised as Queen Connie and sees Bartholomew Kuma enslaved by the celestial dragons. The revolutionary commanders see this too and prepare a dangerous mission to rescue him. Finally, the Leveille begins. Cobra requests a meeting with the 5 elders while they discuss a coming great cleansing. They then enter the throne room where the mysterious emu sits upon the supposedly empty throne. The 5 elders kneel and ask which light should be erased from history. The Wano Country Saga. Wano Country aired in the One Piece anime from 2019 to 2023 in Japan and spans a total of 197 episodes. So, let's get into the story. Marco and Nekomamushi first reach Sphinx, Whitebeard's homeland, hoping Marco will join the fight against Kaido. But Marco stays behind to protect the village from Edward Weevil and Buchan, who are hunting Whitebeard's inheritance. He sends Nekomamushi ahead with a message for Luffy. Meanwhile, Luffy's group sails towards Wano, reading news from the Leveille, aka the Reverie, before entering the stormy sea. They ride giant carp up a waterfall, but a whirlpool separates Luffy and the Thousand Sunny from the others. In Wano, Kinemon's group has already infiltrated the flower capital. Frankie works as a carpenter, Usopp sells toad oil, Robin trains as a geisha, and Zoro becomes a ronin. But Zoro is framed for murders by a corrupt magistrate. During his forced seppuku, Zoro realizes the magistrate is the real killer and cuts him down with the tiny blade. Luffy washes ashore in Kuri and meets Tama, a poor girl with the power to tame animals by feeding them dango from her cheek. After Luffy saves her from beast pirate scouts, Tama feeds him her only rice. She then collapses from drinking polluted water. Her master, Tenguyama Hitetsu, explains that Kaido's factories have poisoned the land and that Tama has been waiting for Ace, who once promised to take her to sea. Luffy tells her Ace died, devastating her, but he sets out to find her a doctor. On the way, Luffy reunites with Zoro, and the two clash with Basil Hawkins. After this, they later meet Suru, who cures Tama in Okobore town, where the poor survive on leftovers from the wealthy Bakura town. When Tama is kidnapped by Gazelman and taken to Hold'em, Luffy, Zoro, and Kiku storm Bakura town. Luffy defeats the Yokozuna Urashima in a sumo match, then punches Hold'em with Red Hawk after seeing Tama hurt. He also steals a cart of clean food and water from the Paradise Farm and delivers it to Okobore town, promising Tama that before he leaves Wano, she will eat as much as she wants every day. Law then brings Luffy to the ruins of Oden Castle, where Luffy sees graves for Kinemon, Kanjuro, Raizo, and Momonosuke. Kinemon reveals the truth. They are not ghosts, but travelers from 20 years ago. He explains that Kozuki Oden once ruled Kuri, sailed with Whitebeard and Roger, learned the secrets of the world, and wanted to open Wano's borders. But Kaido and Orochi killed him, burned Oden Castle, and forced Toki to send Momonosuke, Kinemon, Kanjuro, Raizo, and Kiku 20 years into the future. Their goal is to raid Kaido's island, Onigashima, during the Fire Festival in 2 weeks. Kaido suddenly appears over Kuri in dragon form. Hawkins, trying to redirect Kaido away from the town, accidentally sends him toward Oden Castle. Kaido destroys the ruins with a blast of fire, and Luffy, believing his crew may have been killed, attacks him in rage. Luffy hits Kaido with everything he has, but Kaido barely feels it and knocks him out with one swing of his club. Luffy is thrown into Udon Prison, where he meets Kid, and the two immediately begin competing while swearing revenge. Elsewhere, Gecko Moria invades Blackbeard's island looking for Absalom, only to learn Absalom was killed and his invisibility fruit stolen by Shiru. Blackbeard invites Moria to join him while revealing major world news. The revolutionary commanders clash with admirals at the Leveille, aka the Reverie, depending on how you want to say this, man, like, bruh. And Luffy has arrived in Wano. In Wano's second act, the flower capital grows tense. Robin infiltrates Orochi's banquet, where Orochi rants about Toki's prophecy, and the Kozuki clan's return. When Toko laughs at him, Orochi tries to kill her, but Komurasaki slaps him. Kiyoshiro appears to cut Komurasaki down, secretly saving her by faking her death, while Nami drops Zeus lightning on Orochi during the chaos. Sanji is later hunted by Page 1 and uses the raid suit for the first time, becoming invisible as Stealth Black. Zoro, meanwhile, meets Tonoyasu in Ibisu town, whose people laugh constantly despite starvation. Zoro then chases Yukimaru, who stole Shusui and ends up saving Komurasaki and Toko from Kamazo. After defeating Kamazo, Zoro learns Komurasaki is actually Hiyori, Momonosuke's sister, who stayed behind in the past and survived under Denjiro's protection. The Alliance suffers a setback when Orochi discovers the secret crescent moon symbol and has Kozuki's supporters rounded up. Tonoyasu, revealed as Shimotsuki Yasui, sacrifices himself publicly. He claims the secret message was only a prank, making Orochi look paranoid and secretly changing the Alliance's meeting place. Orochi executes him, and the people of Ebisu town laugh uncontrollably. Hiyori reveals the horrifying truth. Orochi fed failed smile fruits to starving townspeople, robbing them of every emotion except laughter. When Orochi tries to shoot Toko, Zoro and Sanji arrive to save her. In Udon, Luffy trains under Hyogoro, learning the Wano form of armament hockey called Ryu. Big Mom, who lost her memory after falling into Wano's waters, is brought to Udon by Chopper, Tama, Kiku, and Momonosuke because she wants Oshiruko. She destroys Queen, causes chaos, and pushes Luffy to unlock a deeper level of hockey by removing explosive collars. Queen eventually knocks Big Mom back into her memories and takes her to Onigashima. Luffy uses the chaos to liberate Udon, winning the prisoners over after Queen's virus weapon backfires. Kawamatsu is freed, Hyogoro rallies the old Yakuza bosses, and Udon becomes an Alliance stronghold. The final preparations come together. Ashura Doji rejoins after showing Kinemon the graves of samurai who died waiting. Kawamatsu reveals a hidden stockpile of weapons gathered with Onimaru. Hiyori gives Zoro Odin's sword, Enma, in exchange for returning Shusui to Wano. Eventually, their alliance reaches 4,200 fighters. Elsewhere, Kaido and Big Mom form their own pirate alliance, sending shockwaves throughout the world. News of the Reverie also changes everything. The Seven Warlords system is abolished, Marine forces move against Mihawk, Hancock, Buggy, and Weevil, and Sengoku explains the history of the Rock's pirates, the old crew that included Kaido, Big Mom, and Whitebeard. Meanwhile, Wano becomes even more important because of Odin's connection to Roger, Whitebeard, and the secrets of the world. On the day of the raid, the Scabbards arrive at Tokage Port and find everything ruined. The alliance appears gone. Then, Kanjuro reveals he is Orochi's spy and a member of the Kurozumi clan. He kidnaps Momonosuke and tries to crush the Scabbard's hope, but Luffy, Law, and Kid arrive at sea with their crews, and Denjiro reveals himself as Kiyoshiro, bringing the freed Resetsu prisoners and the Hidden Alliance forces. Jinbei also returns, officially joining the Straw Hats just in time for the raid. The Alliance lands on Onigashima, disguised as beast pirates. While Kaido and Orochi celebrate the Fire Festival, Luffy and Zoro blow their cover after seeing beast pirates waste food and mock Okabore town. Kid attacks Appu for betraying him, and chaos erupts. The Scabbards infiltrate from the rear, Kanjuro delivers Momonosuke to Orochi, and Kaido announces the new Onigashima project. He will turn Wano into a lawless pirate nation and make Yamato shogun. When Orochi objects, Kaido beheads him and absorbs his forces. Luffy meets Yamato, Kaido's child, who idolizes Odin and wants to fight for Wano. Yamato reveals he met Ace years ago and has been waiting for Luffy. As Kaido prepares to execute Momonosuke, the Scabbards launch their ambush and wound him, officially starting the raid. Kaido takes dragon form and flies to the rooftop with the Scabbards clinging to him. Under the full moon, the Minks unleash Sulong and fight Jack's army. Inside the Skull Dome, the Straw Hats gather. Sanji saves Momonosuke from King. Frankie and Brook crash into Big Mom. Jinbei and Robin toss Big Mom away, and Luffy declares total war. Drake, exposed as a marine spy, joins Luffy's side. Queen then releases the Ice Oni virus on the live floor, while Tama begins turning gifters to the Alliance's side using her Dango. Robin then saves Sanji from Black Maria, trusting his faith in her, and later defeats Black Maria with Brook's help. Chopper then cures the Ice Oni virus and wins over Queen's own subordinates by proving Queen treats them as disposable. On the rooftop, Luffy, Zoro, Law, Kid, and Killer face Kaido and Big Mom. Luffy hurts Kaido with Red Rock, proving his new haki works. The Worst Generation fights desperately, but the two emperors are overwhelming. Zoro briefly blocks their combined attack, suffering massive injuries, then later scars Kaido with Ashura. Luffy realizes Conqueror's haki can be infused into attacks and briefly fights Kaido one-on-one, but he is defeated and knocked into the sea. The battle continues below, as Big Mom turns on page 1 after learning Okabore town was burned, while Nami and Usopp protect Tama. Zeus, abandoned by Big Mom, ends up living inside Nami's climate act and helps her defeat Ulti. Momonosuke broadcasts Luffy's message that he is still alive and will return, restoring the Alliance's morale. Sanji then takes over against Queen, and Zoro is revived by mink medicine so he can fight King. The Straw Hats and their allies begin defeating their enemies, and Jinbei defeats Who's Who reveals he was imprisoned by the world government after losing the Gomu Gomu no Mi to Shanks. Frankie defeats Sasaki, and Robin defeats Black Maria, while Killer defeats Hawkins by exploiting the fact that Kid has no left arm. Sanji, fearing his Vinsmoke modifications are awakening and might erase his emotions, destroys the raid suit, then accepts his new body and defeats Queen with Ifrit Jambe. Zoro learns King is a Lunarian and figures out his flame-based defense. By unleashing his own Conqueror's haki through Enma, he defeats King. Meanwhile, Law and Kid fight Big Mom. Using their awakened Devil Fruit abilities, they push her beyond her limits. Big Mom empowers herself with her own lifespan, but Law silences her with Our Room, and Kid blasts her with Damned Punk, sending her through Onigashima and into a massive underground pit. Big Mom falls into the earth, swearing revenge, and an explosion follows. For the first time, an emperor has finally fallen. Kaido then defeats Luffy again after CP0 interferes, recreating the kind of outside sabotage that once ruined Kaido's fight with Oden. Luffy's heart stops and Kaido declares him dead. The alliance then begins to despair, but Zunisha tells Momonosuke it hears the drums of liberation. Joy Boy has returned. The 5 elders reveal that Luffy's fruit is not the Gum Gum fruit, but the mythical Zoan Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, whose awakening gives the user absurd freedom in battle, bringing their imagination and dreams to reality. With this, Luffy awakens in Gear 5. In Gear 5, Luffy fights like a living cartoon, grabbing Kaido, bouncing attacks back, turning giant, and laughing through the battle. Kaido recognizes the power as an awakening, but continues fighting seriously, insisting Haki is what truly conquers the seas. Inside the castle, fire spread everywhere, but Raizo uses water stored from Zunisha's eruption rain, and Jinbei spreads it through the castle to save everyone. Orochi, trapped with Hiyori, tries to kill her, but Denjiro returns and finally beheads him. For the final battle, Luffy creates an island-sized fist, and Kaido wraps himself in a massive flaming dragon form, confident Luffy will melt before touching him. But Luffy uses advanced Haki to avoid direct contact. When Kaido asks what kind of world Luffy wants, Luffy answers a world where his friends can eat as much as they want. Luffy overpowers Kaido and punches him deep into the earth, while Momonosuke finally creates flame clouds to move Onigashima away from the flower capital and land it safely. With Kaido defeated, Nekomamushi announces victory. Momonosuke appears before the people of Wano with Hiyori and the Scabbards. At first, the citizens fear he is Kaido, but he transforms into his adult human form and declares that Kaido and Orochi are gone. He promises to abolish the factories, restore the land, and rule as Wano's new shogun. Tama remembers her parents, the hunger she endured, and Luffy's promise, then breaks down crying in Nami's arms. A week later, Wano begins healing. Luffy and Zoro finally wake up, demanding meat and booze, and the country celebrates with a massive banquet. Robin discovers that Tenguyama Hitetsu is actually Kozuki Sukiyaki, Oden's father, who reveals Wano's road poneglyph and the hidden ancient weapon Pluton beneath the country. He also explains that opening Wano's borders would release Pluton, but Momonosuke decides the country is not ready yet. Caribou overhears this and plans to expose this later on. Ryokugyu arrives in Wano, hoping to capture Luffy and impress Sakazuki. He attacks the recovering Scabbards and drains Raizo and Shinobu, but Momonosuke refuses help from Luffy's group, wanting to prove Wano can defend itself. In desperation, he unleashes his first Bolo breath. Ryokugyu prepares to continue, but Shanks, waiting offshore with the red-haired pirates, blasts him with Conqueror's Haki. Ryokugyu retreats and Shanks decides not to meet Luffy yet, instead declaring it is finally time to go after the One Piece. Yamato chooses to stay in Wano for now, wanting to help protect it and explore the country before sailing. Marco then says his goodbye to Luffy and tells him Ace would be proud. Carrot is then chosen to become the new ruler of Zou, while Sukiyaki reveals himself to Momonosuke and Hiyori, but chooses to keep living as Tenguyama. Finally, the Straw Hats, Heart Pirates, and Kid Pirates all prepare to leave. Law declares their alliance over, and the 3 crews become rivals again. Kid reveals the Cross Guild, led publicly by Buggy with Crocodile and Mihawk involved, and mentions the mysterious Man with the Burn Scar. Momonosuke and Kinemon, angry that Luffy left without saying goodbye, chase him to the port. Momonosuke breaks down, begging Luffy not to go, but Luffy gives him a Straw Hat flag and tells him to fly it over Wano if enemies come, because Wano is now under his crew's protection. He also tells Momonosuke, Kinemon, and Yamato that they can sail with him whenever they're ready. The 3 pirate crews then depart Wano, each heading toward the next stage of the race for the One Piece. Final Saga, Egghead Arc. Now, technically the Final Saga is bigger than just Egghead, but since Egghead is the only complete arc from this saga in the anime at the moment, that is what we're going to focus on. The Egghead arc aired in the One Piece anime from 2023 to 2025 for a total of 70 episodes. Let's dive into Egghead arc. After leaving Wano, the Straw Hats survive the dangerous fall down the waterfall, and Nami punishes Luffy by locking him in a cage. The crew then reads the newspaper and learns about the huge events that happened while they were isolated. Cobra has been killed, Vivi is missing, Sabo is accused of murder, and their new bounties are out. Luffy immediately wants to rescue Vivi, but Zoro tells him not to rush in without knowing the situation. Luffy refuses to believe Sabo killed Cobra, then accidentally reveals his true dream to the crew. Everyone reacts with shock, laughter, and disbelief, while Frankie says they need the last road poneglyph to make Luffy Pirate King and help him achieve it. Elsewhere, Marco returns to Sphinx and remembers saying goodbye to Luffy, Jinbei, and the others in Wano. Yamato had chosen not to join the Straw Hats yet because Wano still needed protection. And meanwhile, on Karai Bari Island, Crocodile and Mihawk confront Buggy for being mistakenly advertised as Cross Guild's leader. In reality, Crocodile and Mihawk created Cross Guild, but Buggy's followers placed him front and center on the poster. The world government misunderstood and declared Buggy one of the 4 emperors. Crocodile is furious, but Mihawk suggests using Buggy as a convenient figurehead. Back on Amazon Lily, the Marines attack with new Seraphim pacifistas, including childlike weapons resembling Hancock and Mihawk. Blackbeard also arrives to steal Hancock's devil fruit. Hancock petrifies most of the Marines and pirates, but Blackbeard grabs her and nullifies her power. The standoff ends when Rayleigh arrives and forces Blackbeard to leave. However, Kobe is kidnapped by the Blackbeard pirates. At Kamabaka Kingdom, the Revolutionary Army learns Sabo is still alive. Sabo calls Dragon and Ivankov, saying he didn't kill Cobra and that he saw something impossible. Someone sitting on the empty throne, which would mean that there is someone who is the true ruler of this world, pulling all the strings. The Marines trace the call to Lulusia Kingdom, and Sabo begins explaining Imu orders a mysterious weapon to erase Lulusia. Beams then fall from the sky, destroying the kingdom completely, and the world government declares that Lulusia never existed. A few days later, the Straw Hats approach Egghead, an island said to be 500 years in the future. They rescue Jewelry Bonnie from a giant warm eddy, but a mechanical shark attacks the Sunny. Jinbei saves Luffy, Chopper, and Bonnie, while the rest of the crew is rescued by a giant mecha piloted by Lilith, one of Dr. Vegapunk's satellite bodies. Luffy's group then explores Egghead and finds holograms, futuristic clothes, climate controls, and an automatic food machine. They meet Atlas, another Vegapunk, but when a police pacifista attacks them, Bonnie stops Luffy from fighting and reveals that Kuma is her father. Meanwhile, CP0 heads to Egghead with Lucci, Kaku, Stussy, and S-Bear. Their mission is to return their Seraphim and assassinate all Vegapunks. In the Labo phase, the other Straw Hats fight S-Shark, a Seraphim modeled after Jinbei. Shaka stops the battle and reveals that Egghead's technology is actually based on an ancient kingdom from 900 years ago. He explains that the Void Century was likely a war between that kingdom and the 20 nations that became the world government. Robin realizes this connects to Ohara, her birthplace that was destroyed by the world government. Shaka also reveals that Ohara's books survived and were taken to Elbaf by giants, suggesting Jaguar D. Saul may still be alive, the giant who protected Robin during the crisis of Ohara, bringing Robin to tears. Luffy's group then meets the real Vegapunk, the Stella. Vegapunk explains that his brain grew endlessly because of the Nomi Nomi no Mi, so he separated it into punk records and created 6 satellite bodies. Bonnie then attacks him, demanding he restore Kuma, but Vegapunk insists he cannot. He also shows them the Ancient Iron Giant, a robot from 900 years ago that once attacked Mary Joie 200 years ago before suddenly stopping. Vegapunk then asks Luffy to take him off Egghead because the world government wants him dead. CP0 infiltrates Egghead, and Lucci badly injures Atlas, enraging Luffy. Luffy and Lucci clash, both using awakened forms, but Luffy overwhelms him in Gear 5. Vegapunk then explains that old records do not mention the Gomu Gomu no Mi and connects Luffy's power to the sun god Nika. Afterward, Sentomaru sides with Vegapunk, but Lucci wounds him and gains control of the Seraphim. Luffy then defeats Lucci for the moment and escapes to the Labo phase with Bonnie. Bonnie finds Kuma's memory bubble in room Nikyu and enters it, witnessing Kuma's tragic childhood. Kuma was born in Sorbet Kingdom as part of the nearly extinct Buccaneer race and enslaved by the world nobles as a child. His father taught him about Nika before being killed. Kuma later survived the God Valley human hunting tournament, where he met Ivankov and Ginny. During the chaos involving the Rocks pirates, Roger pirates, Marines, and Celestial Dragons, Kuma ate the pawpaw fruit and saved hundreds of people. Kuma, Ginny, and Ivankov escaped to Sorbet. Kuma became a gentle pastor who absorbed people's pain every week. He loved Ginny, but refused to marry her because his Buccaneer blood could endanger her. After the corrupt king, Bakori, oppressed Sorbet's poor, Kuma and Ginny joined Dragon's revolutionary army. Ginny was later kidnapped and forced to marry a celestial dragon. Years later, she returned, dying from sapphire scales, left behind her daughter, Bonnie. Kuma raised Bonnie as his own, but she inherited the same disease. When doctors said she would die by age 10, Kuma searched desperately for a cure. Kuma eventually brought Bonnie to Vegapunk, who could save her. Vegapunk agreed, but Saturn imposed cruel conditions. Kuma had to become a warlord, become the model for the Pacifista Project, and surrender his free will. Kuma accepted because it would save Bonnie. After her treatment, Bonnie was held hostage in Sorbet by Cypher Pole, while Kuma's letters to her were intercepted. Bonnie eventually escaped using her age powers. Kuma then continued serving the government while secretly helping people. He spared the Straw Hats at Thriller Bark, separated them at Sabaody because he believed Luffy could save the world, and asked Vegapunk to program him to protect the Sunny until a Straw Hat returned. Before losing his personality, Kuma left Bonnie one final birthday message. In the present, Bonnie, understanding everything, forgives Vegapunk, realizing Saturn is the true source of her family's suffering. Meanwhile, York is revealed as the traitor among the Vegapunks. She wants to become a celestial dragon and secretly gave the world government the Mother Flame. The world government surrounds Egghead with a massive fleet led by Kizaru and Saint J. Garcia Saturn. Kizaru defeats Sentomaru, takes command of the Pacifistas, and enters the Labo phase. Lucci then betrays the group and tries to kill Vegapunk, but Stussy takes the blow. Zoro fights Lucci, while Luffy fights Kizaru. Kizaru then destroys the Vega Force 01 and kicks Bonnie into the barrier, but Luffy enters Gear 5 and grabs him. The Iron Giant begins awakening in response to Luffy's heartbeat. Saturn then arrives in a monstrous spider-like form and immobilizes everyone with a mysterious power. Bonnie stabs him in rage, but he regenerates instantly. Saturn reveals that Kuma was a Buccaneer and prepares to execute Bonnie. Just before she's killed, Kuma arrives on Egghead and protects her. He punches Saturn with his remaining strength, sending him flying. Saturn then regenerates and orders a Buster Call, deciding Egghead must be erased because it contains Void Century research, a Buccaneer survivor, and Nika. As Egghead burns, Vegapunk reveals he secretly programmed all Kuma-based pacifistas to obey Bonnie above the 5 elders. Bonnie commands them to stop, and the pacifistas turn on the Marines. Saturn impales Vegapunk for his betrayal, and Kizaru wounds him further. Luffy then returns in Gear 5 and saves the fallen group. Vegapunk tells Bonnie that Luffy is Nika, the figure Kuma believed in. Then the giant warrior pirates arrive, led by Dory and Broggy, to rescue Luffy, the Sun God. Vegapunk's death triggers a broadcast which begins reaching the entire world. He announces that the world will sink into the ocean and explains that the Void Century was a war by the ancient figure Joy Boy's advanced kingdom and the 20 kingdoms that eventually led to the formation of the world government, and that the ancient weapons caused the seas to rise by 200 meters. He also admits the stolen Mother Flame was likely used to destroy Lelucia. The 5 elders descend onto Egghead in monstrous forms to stop the broadcast. They try to destroy the source, but Vegapunk reveals enough for the world to understand that Joy Boy was the first pirate. The ancient war had never truly ended, and the fate of the world depends on whoever finds the One Piece. During the escape, Bonnie uses her power to become a Nika-like figure and fights beside Luffy. Atlas sacrifices herself to keep Nujuro from stopping the Sunny, and finally, Emmett, the Iron Giant, protects Luffy and releases a knot of Joy Boy's Conqueror's Hockey. The blast knocks out Marines and forces the Elders back to Mary Joie. The Straw Hats and the Giants escape Egghead, and afterward it is revealed that Vegapunk, Shaka, and Pythagoras discovered York's betrayal, recorded the broadcast, hid it inside Emmett, and erased their own memories so York wouldn't even know. Afterward, Lilith wakes up aboard the giant ship and tells Luffy that the Vegapunks still live through her, easing his guilt over failing to save Stella. Elsewhere, Saturn is punished by Emu for letting Luffy escape, and Garling replaces him as one of the 5 elders. As the Revolutionary Army processes Vegapunk's message, they realize the world may soon fight over habitable land. The Straw Hats now sail toward Elbaf with Bonnie, Lilith, and the Giants, while the world enters a terrifying new era. And that is part 1 of the final saga, the Egghead arc. After Elbaf concludes, then part 2 will come out. But in the meantime, if you haven't already watched the other sagas, then click one of these videos right here. Don't forget to join the membership. It means a lot to me. Thank y'all for supporting the channel. We're at 35,000 subs. Goal is to get to 50K by the end of this year. And use Conqueror's Hockey on the subscribe button, Observation Hockey on the bell icon so you never miss another update. And until next time, deuces.